So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on what if Naruto had a secret 800-old computer and GIRLD picture of Harem movie. But before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. It was the land of waves. It was once a beautiful, wealthy and healthy country. Not anymore, however, as an evil business dealer, known by the name of Gato, had taken over Wave, stripping the economy of wealth and leaving it to fall into the dust. It was close to doing that, however, that was when the shinobi came. The bridge builder Tazuna had hired shinobi from the Leaf Village to aid Wave, and return it to its former glory before Gato came in. That is, he told them the truth after they realized he lied to them about the mission. They had faced a nuke nin known as Zabuza Momochi and his assistant, and had narrowly defeated them. It was now 2 weeks later from that point, and things were heating up. A large, thick mist covered the bridge in construction leading from the mainland to Wave. And on it, events were occurring that would change everyone's lives forever. Especially of one certain, knuckle-headed shinobi. His name was Naruto Uzumaki, and was currently in a giant dome of ice with his teammate Sasuke. They both were facing off against Zabuza's assistant who could control ice as a weapon. To be blunt enough, he was kicking their asses. Naruto had been too weak to move, and the assistant had thrown ice needles at him. He had waited for the impact, and the swift move of death, but it didn't come. He opened his eyes slowly, and they snapped open in horror, seeing Sasuke in front of him, his entire front covered in needles. He stood for a moment, breathing heavily as Naruto watched. Sasuke. Why? Naruto asked, still looking in horror. Sasuke, standing for a moment, fell backwards, Naruto catching him. He looked up at Naruto weakly, a trail of blood falling down his lips. D-Dobi. C can't let Y you die. H have AR rep to K keep. He coughed harshly, more blood coming out. He lifted an arm, putting his hand weakly on Naruto's shoulder. D-do meaf favor Bibaka. D-don. Die. Yet, it was all he could say, before his eyes slowly closed, his head falling backwards. His hand fell off Naruto's shoulder, falling to the ground with a small thunk. Naruto's head was now lowered, his face not visible. He'll be remembered. The fake hunter nin said from one of the mirrors. Is this the first time you've seen a close friend die? No need to worry about it though, you'll soon be joining him. He lifted his hand with more needles in it, ready to deal the final blow. As he was ready to throw, however, he felt his strength leave him. Against his will, he fell to his knees in the mirror, the invisible force pushing him down. What? What is this? This killing intent, it's unbelievable, the hunter thought. With much strain, he looked up to find the answer, and was shocked to find it in front of him. Naruto was now standing, the killing intent rolling off of him like a tsunami. It was starting to crack the mirrors slightly, them soon repairing themselves. That was not the noticeable thing, however. It was the chakra vortex surrounding him. It was dark, menacing yellow, with thick streaks of black in it, shooting off like lightning. It wasn't very visible, but there was also thin streaks of red. As he tried to stand up, Naruto looked up at the nin. He froze in surprise and terror as he looked Naruto in the face. His features had changed. His skin had darkened to that of a medium tan, almost like a shell. The whisker marks on his face had thinned considerably, almost like they weren't even there anymore. That was not the attention grabber. It was his eyes. They had used to be a deep cerulean blue, filled with happiness and joy. Now they were completely white, no sign of blood vessels or veins. The creepy part was that where the pupils should have been, was a glowing, yellow circle made of triangles. The look in them was now calculative, keen, alert, and pissed. Naruto stared at the nin, before he spoke in a deep, mixed voice. It was a combination of him, machinery, and a woman? So, you want to play? Naruto said in the voice, sending chills down the hunter's spine. He paused for a moment, before he gave a small smile that held vicious intentions. Then let the science begin, and it was straight after that he blazed through hand signs. The hunter saw him go through horse, boar, dragon, monkey, and rat before stopping on snake. Fire style. He shouted, his glowing eyes now spinning at a fast rate as they turned red. Laser pandemonium jutsu. It was then that 2 rays of red light bolted out of his eyes. They hit a mirror before they bounced off and hit another, resulting in the same effect. Soon they were bouncing at an incredible speed, cracking the mirrors so fast that they couldn't repair in time. They were now in a flurry, almost like a ball as they bounced around. Before the entire dome blew apart from the pressure. The hunter flew back from the explosion, skidding to halt as he finally landed on his back. He struggled to get up, using his arms too weakly to push himself into a standing position. That was all he could do as he suddenly heard steps behind him. He turned as quickly as he could, only to be met with a fist to the face, cracking the mask and sending him back. He landed again, sliding and bumping as he finally stopped once more. He struggled again, standing up to face against his now deadly opponent. He weakly lifted his head, seeing Naruto charge at him at an incredible rate. He saw Naruto pull his fist back as he got closer, and closed his eyes waiting for the final blow. But it never came. He opened his eyes weakly, seeing through the now gaping hole in his mask. Naruto's fist had stopped an inch from his face. Naruto's eyes had stopped spinning, the yellow Trian circle now sitting still. They were now looking at him in surprise. "Haku?" Naruto asked, his mixed voice still present. The rest of the mask fell away, revealing the boy he had met in the forest. Haku smiled sadly as he looked at the shocked Naruto. "Yes. It's me. I'm sorry about this, Naruto. Just kill me, I am simply a tool. I am not worth anything," Haku said to the shocked Naruto, making his eyes widen more. What? No I can't. You're more than just a tool, you're a human being. Live Haku. Your life is worth more than you think it is. Naruto shouted at Haku, watching as Haku seemed to think about it. The thinking stopped however, as they both heard a chirping noise. Haku stiffened as he looked over into the mist, where the chirping came from. He turned back to Naruto and smiled sadly. "I'm sorry Naruto, you're wrong. I'm a tool, I'm expendable. Goodbye," Haku said, before he shined away. Naruto stood for a second, before he narrowed his eyes and turned to the chirping noise. His yellow eyes turned a spectral green, looking into the mist. He saw 3 figures through it. Haku, a man with large clumps on him, and another man whose hand was sparkling. "Not if I have anything to say about it," Naruto said, raising his arms in 2 different directions. One towards a space where the Sparkle Man was running, and another a few feet away from this. "It's time for an experiment. Timing is the key." Naruto said this simply, before he narrowed his eyes, and snapped both of his fingers, a flash of orange and blue surrounding him. It was a minute earlier that 2 figures had been fighting. One was the Nuke Nin Zabuza Momochi, and the other was Kakashi Hatake, leader of Team 7. Both were panting heavily, as the fight between them has tired them both. Both looked at each other, and got ready to charge, until they were stopped by something they didn't expect. Killing intent, and strong intent at that. Zabuza actually dropped his Zanbatsu, and Kakashi was having trouble breathing. "By Kami, where is this ki coming from? It's insane," Zabuza said, struggling to stay up. Kakashi was close to on his knees now, and was thinking hurriedly. "Oh no, did Sensei's seal break?" "No, it couldn't have, it was a master seal of death. Plus, this ki, it's 3 times the strength that the Kyuubi's is. What is it then? I have to end this quick," Kakashi thought, quickly pulling a scroll out of his Jonin vest. "Well Zabuza, it looks like we're ending this early," Kakashi said, spinning the scroll around him as he slammed his palms onto the ground. Summoning Earth style. Fang Pursuit Jutsu. A large seal appeared on the ground, before a large poof of smoke appeared, sending the seal outward in lines. The stones in the bridge ruptured as they charged forward, heading in the direction of Zabuza. They soon stopped a few feet from him, before it completely shot up, revealing dogs coming up from underneath the bridge. They latched onto Zabuza using their teeth, making him cry out in pain. He was completely immobilized, all of them, hanging onto him with everything they had. Kakashi nodded at this before he flashed through hand signs, ending in an open palm which he gripped. The result was chirping. It was low at first, but quickly intensified so that you could barely hear anything over it. The chirping itself was made by the lightning that now shot from Kakashi's hand, surrounding him in a circle. He spoke to Zabuza as he focused the lightning in his hand. "This Zabuza. This is the only technique I have never copied with the Sharingan. This is my ultimate technique, and it will be your end," Kakashi said, finally getting the lightning to a quick moving pace. He finally looked up, before he charged forward towards Zabuza. The trail of lightning cracked the bridge stones as he charged at Zabuza, getting ready to end his life. As he got closer, he barely had time to notice someone jump in front of Zabuza. His eyes widened when he realized it was the Hunter Nin, but became shocked when he saw it was a mid-teen. He realized that it would kill the boy, and Zabuza would live. As he tried to stop while continuing to run, he felt something unexpected. His foot had missed something, because he was now falling. His eyes widened more as he looked down. And completely fell through the bridge. At least he thought he did before he felt himself flip and land on the bridge again. From the velocity of the run, it took him a few seconds to slow down. The chirping slowed down until it stopped altogether. Kakashi groaned as he lay on the bridge, wondering what exactly had just happened. What the hell? I swear I was on the bridge, but I fell off and landed on it again, he thought. Before he could answer his opinion out loud, however, he heard a voice that he recognized barely. It was different, but he recognized it. Naruto. Test success. Timing it correctly, a high-velocity object can move through a portal without crossing over said portal. I'll mark this in the success section. The strange Naruto voice said, shocking Kakashi. He couldn't see him through the mist, but he could tell he was close. Test. What test? Kakashi voiced out loud, not realizing he said it before it was too late. Naruto chuckled at this in his mixed voice, sending shivers down Kakashi's spine. Ah yes. I suppose I should explain the test to you, Hitaki-san. Momochi-san, please lower the mist. I believe there's some explaining to do, and your arms are completely worthless now with the dogs tearing into them. Naruto said, shouting out the last part. Kakashi went wide-eyed as he looked around, trying to find Naruto. Impossible. How does Naruto see that? It's impossible through this mist, and we were hundreds of feet from each other. Kakashi thought as he felt the mist lessen. Soon the mist was now gone, and those who had been fighting on the bridge felt their jaws drop at what they saw. Where Kakashi had fallen, through the bridge, there was a hole, but not what they expected. It was a large, oval hole which was big enough to fit the average man. The interesting thing was that the rim of it was glowing an intense dark blue, and the inside of the hole was the shocking part. It was currently showing the sky above them, along with the back of Kakashi. Kakashi didn't know how it could be doing that, however, since he now realized he was halfway across the bridge from where he was. He couldn't be seeing his back unless. He looked over his shoulder and was flabbergasted once again at what he saw. There was another hole at least 3 feet behind him, but it was orange instead of blue, and it was currently showing the shocked Haku and bloody Zabuza on the other side of the bridge. He slowly walked up to the shimmering hole before bending down to it. He lowered his arm to it and with hesitation, put his hand through it. He heard a short scream, and turned to it. He felt like his eyes were going to pop out of his head from all of the surprises. The scream came from the hunter Nin, who was looking down in terror. He had good reason too, since the blue hole in front of him had Kakashi's hand pointing upward at him. He watched it slowly as he pulled his arm out of the portal in front of him slowly, and was surprised to see the hand on the other side of the bridge pulled back when he did. He completely pulled it out of the hole, looking at it to check it for damage. Glad to see it was fine, he looked at the orange hole before he voiced out loud again, what the hell is this thing? That would an aperture science portal, Hitaki-san. The creepy Naruto voice said again, this time from behind him. Kakashi quickly turned around, and was met with what appeared to be Naruto, except he was different. He had different skin color, no whiskers, and yellow train circle eyes. Kakashi blinked before he spoke. Naruto? Kakashi asked, uncertain this was Naruto. The boy in front of him nodded before speaking. In a way I am. However, the Uzumaki boy is currently unconscious in his mind, so I have temporarily taken control of his body to ensure his survival. The Naruto said in his mixed, computerized voice. Kakashi hesitated, but before he could say anything, Naruto spoke again. Before you go to thinking it, no, I am not the demonic fox manifestation that inhabits his body. I am something else. Something much older than it. The Naruto said, relieving and confusing Kakashi. Well, I suppose that's good to hear, but what do you mean older? Kakashi asked. The Naruto hesitated, before he shook his head and looked at Kakashi with the creepy eyes. I believe any and all of your questions may be answered at a later time. Right now, I believe you have an useless criminal and an unconscious Uchiha to deal with. The Naruto said, before snapping his fingers, making the holes disappear. Kakashi felt his jaw drop as the Naruto simply walked past him toward the now revealed to be unconscious Sasuke. The thing in Naruto's body, it made those holes? This is not something that's seen every day. The Hokage will need to hear about this. He thought, tucking the thought away as he walked over to Sasuke. Naruto was already pulling Senbon out, checking Sasuke's pulse. After a few more were pulled out, he nodded before turning to Kakashi. It would appear he was unconscious in a sense. The Senbon put him in a death-like state. He'll awaken in a few hours, Naruto said to Kakashi, who listened while putting the notes of Naruto's helper away for later. As Naruto stood up, he walked over to Zabuza. Both of them seemed to be on guard as he walked up to them. He stopped in front of Zabuza, before looking him over and pulling out gauze. Well, let me see them. If the bleeding doesn't stop, you'll lose your function to use them altogether. Both seemed shocked by this statement. When they tried to kill wanted to help them? Before they could answer, however, they heard loud laughter. All on the bridge, including the useless Sakura and Tazuna, looked toward the laughter, and saw a short man in a suit with a cane. It was Gato, and he had brought a lot of mercenaries with him. From what they could see, it was over 300 mercs and thugs. Well, if it isn't the demon of the mist. You look like the kitten of the mist now, Gato said, getting arrogant laughs from the thugs. To tell you the truth, Zabuza, I wasn't going to pay you in the first place. Mercenaries are a lot more cheaper than shinobi, and now that you're injured, this will make it all the easier. Gato chuckled before he turned to the thugs and mercenaries behind him. All right, boys. Kill the bridge builder and all of the ninja. Except for the girl, of course. You can do whatever you want with her. This received evil laughs and chuckles from the thugs. Sakura, who had slowly gotten closer to the group, gulped as she seemed ready to cry. Naruto caught this, and understood. He was now sending a glare at the thugs that could kill, but they didn't notice. Hey Kakashi, Zabuza said, getting his attention. Looks like we got ourselves a truce for the moment. Lend me a kunai? Kakashi seemed ready to, but was stopped by a hand. He looked to see Naruto, the one stopping him. There will be no need for that Hitaki, Momochi. I'll take care of it, Naruto said, stepping toward the small army. He took a few steps forward, before he stopped and directed his attention towards the army. The moment he did, they all felt a heavy pressure on them. A few fell to ground completely, while the rest were struggling to stay up. Gato was sweating profusely, his face a look of horror as he watched Naruto give them all a death glare with his triangle eyes. I know you're kind, Gato, Naruto said, getting everyone's attention. You're the kind of man to kill someone for a petty reason. You're the kind of person to order everyone else around because you're too weak to. I know that you're the kind of man who insults everyone while hiding behind others. He gave Gato a full glare, making him take a step back. I know you said a lot of things you're going to regret. But this caught his attention. I think we can put our differences behind us. This shocked everyone, including the shinobi. That little traitor. Thought he was helping us, Zabuza said through gritted teeth. Kakashi had a full-on glare going at Naruto, while Sakura had a look of horror. But the next sentence shocked them all. For science that is, you monster, Naruto said, giving an evil grin as he bit his thumb and blared through hand signs. He slammed his hand on the ground and shouted, summoning jutsu. A large cloud of smoke appeared, covering Naruto. Everyone stiffened, not sure what was going to happen. Their worry was answered when a small voice said, hello. The smoke cleared, revealing the hidden object, or in this case, objects. There were 5 of them altogether. They were short, going up to about Zabuza's waist. They sat on 3 black claw-like legs, with a white, oval body that sat on top of the legs. In the middle of body were red, mechanical eyes, which glowed when they spoke. Witches did as it spoke again. I see you, it said in the same soft voice. There was silence, before the entire army of thugs laughed loudly, relaxing instantly. Ha ha ha. That's your attack, kid. Toys. How about we play with you as we kick your asses? Get, I am boys, a thug yelled out, making the rest roar in approval as they all charged forward, weapons in hand. Naruto simply stood there as they got closer, swinging their swords and daggers. Naruto. Move, you idiot, Sakura yelled, actually worried for her teammate. They could only watch in horror as Naruto continued to stand there, ignoring them. We got you now, kid. Say goodnight, the thug yelled, getting closer. Naruto simply smiled evilly as he watched the side of the objects in front of him pop open, revealing black wings, with holes in them. Oh, I won't. They will. Naruto said, pointing to the things, which is exactly what they did. As their eyes glowed, and red lasers, non-harmful, pointed at the army, they said one thing altogether. Good night. And that is when hell decided to break loose. What could be described next would probably be a bloodbath. Hundreds of flashes seemed to pop from the sides of the white things, but the results were successful and hideous. As the flashes appeared, hundreds of holes, cuts, and numerous other injuries appeared on the thugs. A few flashes made it so attacks went straight through one thug into 20 behind him. Limbs actually began to fall off from the injuries the thugs were getting, and blood seemed to be the only thing visible as the white objects continued to attack them without even moving. After 1 minute, they stopped the flashes, pulling their sides back into their bodies. What appeared to be a river of blood flowed on the bridge, multiple hills of bodies littering the end of the bridge. Gato was now the only one left. There were multiple reactions to the attack. Haku seemed paler than usual, Kakashi was wide-eyed, and Zabuza had a maniacal grin on his face. Sakura and Tazuna had run to the side railing of the bridge and thrown up. As for Gato, he had dropped his cane, and had a look of horror on his face. Naruto then turned to Zabuza. "Momochi, do you still want the kunai?" he asked Zabuza, making Zabuza's smile grow even bigger. "Oh yeah," Zabuza said eerily, a huge grin on his face. Naruto simply shrugged as he pulled out a kunai and threw it at Zabuza, who caught it with his teeth. He grinned maniacally at Gato before charging forward. It took only a second before he was in front of Gato, and he spat out the kunai. It hit Gato in the eye, killing him instantly. Gato's body stood for a moment, before it fell backwards onto the bridge, dead. Zabuza looked at the body, before sighing and walking back to the small group. As he got there, they all heard a large trampling of footsteps. They all turned to it, and were surprised to see a large mob of the villagers, Inari at the front of the mob. The mob looked around the bridge, before slowly lowering their weapons. "Holy crap! What happened, and where's Gato?" a villager asked. Naruto smiled before he spoke to them all. "Well, it is with pleasure that I say that we have defeated Gato's little army, and Gato is dead," Naruto said to them all, shocking them completely. So you mean we're," Inari said, shock and realization hitting him. "Yes. Your country is free once more," Naruto said to them all. There was a moment of silence, before they all started to cheer. All their weapons were dropped, and hats were thrown into the air. As the group of shinobi watched them rejoice, Kakashi noticed that Naruto seemed to be teetering. "Naruto?" Kakashi asked, slightly worried. Naruto looked at him, the glowing eyes starting to turn back to Naruto's normal blue. "Do not worry. My energy going into his system is simply taking its toll. When he reawakens, your questions will be answered." As Naruto's eyes fully turned back to blue, Naruto said one last thing before falling into unconsciousness. "Good night." He fell back, but before he could hit the bridge, Kakashi caught him. He lifted Naruto so that he was now carrying him. As he went to go check on the unconscious Sasuke, he could only think one thing. "It looks like I will have some questions for him." Naruto could tell three things from his position. 1. It was very dark. 2. It was very wet. 3. He was lying on some kind of concrete. He laid there for a moment, before he shot up, holding his arms to his chest. "Holy crap, that's cold," he said, quickly standing up. He shivered before he unzipped his jacket and shook it, making more water fly off. He stopped shaking it, as he finally realized that he was somewhere he didn't recognize. He looked around, trying to see what was around him. He could make out a couple things through the darkness. He could tell the floor was covered in a couple inches of water, and there were walls with pipes on them. They held three distinctive things. The smallest one was the width of a shoe, and it held blue energy. The second was as wide as a jug, and it held a red malevolent energy. The last one got his attention. The third pipe was at least 20 times bigger than the other two, and held a multicolored energy. It consisted of orange, red, purple, blue, white, and mostly yellow. Not knowing anywhere else to go, he followed the pipes down the hallway until he arrived in a large room. In front of his was what appeared to be a large gate, a piece of paper in the middle of it. As he neared the cage doors, he had a feeling to jump back. He was glad he did, as right when he moved, the cage glowed dark red and a giant red arm with claws went to grab him. Realizing that it missed, a large growl came from the cage, and it pulled its arm back. Well, I didn't expect to see my tenant in here. You're lucky I didn't pull you in here and rip you to shreds. It's good to know you actually have reflexes," a dark voice said, drawing Naruto's attention. As he looked into the cage, he saw the energy shift until it turned into the form of a giant fox with red fur and 9 tails. His eyes went wide at this, finally realizing what was in front of him. "Holy, you're the Kyuubi!" Naruto yelled, pointing his finger at the cage in shock. The Kyuubi gave a dark chuckle, sending chills throughout Naruto's body. "Well, what do ya know? You actually do know something." The Kyuubi stared at Naruto, giving a grin that showed hundreds of sharp canines. "I have a proposition for you, kid. It gets pretty cramped in here, you know. I haven't been able to stretch for 12 years now. Since you're my jailer, I was thinking that all prisoners get some outdoor time. So how about you let me out? I can relax for a little, and then you can put me back in this cage when I'm done. What do you say?" the Kyuubi asked Naruto. Naruto seemed to think about it for a minute, before getting a serious and doubting look on his face. "Well, I suppose I could, but you better watch it, Fox." I've got my eyes on you, Naruto said, walking up the cage. The Kyuubi grinned as Naruto reached the cage door, reaching up to the seal to pull it off. Before he could, however, he was stopped by a mechanical, feminine voice. "Oh no you don't," the voice said. The second the voice finished, Naruto was pushed away from the cage by an invisible force. The cage door seemed to destroy itself, but was replaced by a large field of criss-crossing red lasers. When they were finished, a large wall of what appeared to be blue light went in front of the lasers. The Kyuubi roared, angry at what just happened. "Damn you! Whoever you are, you let me out, damn it! I am the king of the Biju, and I will tear you apart when I find you." The Kyuubi roared, trying to thrash at the wall of lasers, but had to pull his arm back when they made severe burns on his arm. He roared in pain, grasping his now less furry arm. Naruto watched this, trying to figure out what exactly was going on. As he thought, however, he heard a mechanical flipping noise. He turned to it, and was surprised to see some kind of metal floor panel had appeared. Before he could wonder how it got there, he was shocked to see another flip right next to it, and another, and another. Soon the entire room was flipping, panels covering the entire room. Bright lights came on from the ceiling, laminating the room completely. As Naruto tried to adjust to the lights, he heard the voice again. "Good. This place is now operational. You may now look around, human," the feminine voice said. Hesitantly, Naruto opened his eyes, and was shocked at the changes. The room before had been a sewer. Now it looked like a huge science lab. The walls seemed to shine from the light, radiating their shininess. The rusty pipes from before were now in large, glass see-through pipes around the room, going from the floor to the ceiling. That was not the most shocking thing, however. It was what was in the center of the room. Hanging from the ceiling was a large mass of cables and metal joints, joining down to what appeared to be a big, white rectangle. In the middle of it was a cutout region, revealing a glowing, mechanical yellow eye. "Whoa! What the hell? What are you?" Naruto yelled in obvious shock. The machine seemed to give a mechanical sigh, before it looked at Naruto. "This will require some explanation. There are no chairs, so please take a seat on an aperture science-weighted companion cube," the machine said, motioning to a large cube next to Naruto. Naruto looked at the strange cube, and noticed the features as he sat on it. It was large, with sections of white all around it, mainly on corners and the center. On the center white pieces were what appeared to be pink hearts, which glowed brightly. After sitting down, he looked at the machine with some worry and fear, which didn't go unnoticed by the machine. "You've no need to worry. You are inside your mind, as obvious by the furball in the corner. I would not attack or purposely harm a descendant of a great mind." This relieved Naruto, but also confused him. "Wait, a great mind? I don't think so. I'm not that smart when it comes to stuff," Naruto said. The machine gave him a look before speaking again. "You should not doubt yourself. In addition, I do not lie when it comes to my creator and your ancestor. Now, let me introduce myself," the machine said, lifting itself so it presented itself brightly. "I am the Aperture Science Genetic Lifeform and Disk Operating System, but you may call me GLaDOS for short." Naruto looked at the machine now called GLaDOS curiously, before he spoke again. "Hello GLaDOS. So what do you mean when you said your creator was my ancestor? Wouldn't that mean I would know who he was?" He noticed GLaDOS sigh before she spoke again. "That is what you would think. However, my creator and your ancestor lived around 700 years ago," GLaDOS said, making Naruto go wide-eyed. "WWH what? 700 years? How does that work? From what I barely know, I'm pretty sure that the shinobi nations are only 100 or 300 years old," Naruto yelled. His confusion grew greater when GLaDOS nodded. "Yes, that is correct. It is time for a history lesson," GLaDOS said before she pulled herself back. After she had moved, a small pedestal appeared in the middle of the room. It glowed, before showing what appeared to be a giant planet. Naruto didn't recognize it, however, since he didn't see the elemental countries anywhere. He did see 7 continents he didn't recognize, however. "I see you are confused. Let me explain. This hologram is showing what the planet we are on looked like over 700 years ago," GLaDOS explained, looking at the hologram. During the time in which these continents and countries still existed, the world's society was extremely advanced. A person could speak with another person on the other side of the planet within a second. Weapons were so powerful that they could kill someone in seconds, or destroy an entire country in less than half the time. People had the ability to fly with help from technology. The humans all those centuries ago had made it so life was comfortable. Naruto could only gap as GLaDOS explained it. An advanced civilization of people lived before them? That was something pretty hard to grasp for Naruto, so he simply nodded. Wow. That sounds awesome. Did they have ramen? Naruto asked GLaDOS, making her chuckle lightly. Yes. The substance you eat known as ramen was widely known throughout the world, mainly served in a small country known as Japan. Now back to the lesson. GLaDOS said to Naruto, both of them turning back to the hologram as it shifted. Now it showed the world in color, and numerous text boxes appeared next to them. In this previous world, there were over 196 different countries and nations together. Where I was created, as she cuts off, the hologram made a large continent flash red, white and blue, making a name appear under it. Was the superpower nation known as the United States of America. At first, this nation was a small country, barely able to keep itself together. But as it slowly grew, it became bigger and more powerful, becoming a country everyone in the world knew about. They had created things like the cotton gin, the automobile, and a weapon that the world would fear for decades known as the atom bomb. Naruto's jaw was dropping lower as he listened more closely. Wow. So, when were you made? He asked, still in shock and awe. He got his answer when a small section of the USA glowed slightly, marking it as something called Michigan. Well, in accordance with the present date, I was created in the year 1986, but I was not brought online until 1997. In the place I was created, was a state known as Michigan, where my home, the Aperture Science Enrichment Center, was built in the time frame *1947. It was led by this man. The hologram shrunk quite a bit, and a new hologram appeared. It was fixed to the size of a large portrait. It showed a man with gray hair covering most of his head. He had a dark brown-red sweater on, which was covered by a light brown jacket. His face, while looking old, had a sense of determination in it, and a look that read, "Try me, I dare you." This was Cave Johnson, CEO of Aperture Science, an optimistic man, and your ancestor. Personally, I never met him since I was created after his death. But from the ideas he suggested, and how he was talked about by his employees, he was a great man. He led the company for a long time until his death at some point between 1982 and 1986. Actually, now that I think about it, some of his traits are seen in you. Enthusiastic, energetic, a warm person. You are definitely his descendant without a doubt. Whoa, so, what happened? Naruto asked, now completely interested. GLaDOS, who had seemed happy as she spoke about Cave, seemed to lower her head, almost in depression. A new hologram came up, showing something that horrified Naruto. The globe before, which had been numerous greens and blues, was now dark brown, with any traces of water gone. Numerous maelstroms of smoke hovered over the pieces of land, where there appeared to be small specks of glowing green land. War happened. Surrounding events that happened with Aperture Science's competitor Black Mesa, they had accidentally let violent species from other planets known as the Combine into our world through their facility. They escaped the facility and started wreaking havoc around the world. The human race fought for survival, fighting the Combine with everything they had. There were those who were seen as legendary resistance heroes against the Combine, one being a man called Gordon Freeman. A picture quickly pops up, revealing a man with brown hair and a brown beard wearing glasses. He is also wearing a strange orange bodysuit, while holding a crowbar. It soon followed that the Combine were driven off of the planet, but at a cost for humanity. The Combine had drained all the water from the planet, and the result from many atom weapons used killed a majority of the environment. However, it is because of the war's after effect, that your present world was created *. Naruto was slightly surprised. Wait a second, how does that work? From this war, the whole world was pretty much dead. How does that work? He asked. GLaDOS simply looked at Naruto and gave a small eye smile. That is a good question. To your answer, let me tell you this. Humanity, no matter what they go through, somehow always finds a way to thrive. She turned to the hologram, and she, along with Naruto, watched the holographic globe change. Water slowly came back, and as it did so, many land masses began to crumble, but as they did, a new one began to form. As the globe changed, a small counter appeared in the corner, counting up from 2009. It steadily increased as more water formed and the landmass got bigger, growing fauna and population. It was when the counter stopped at 2639 that the new continent now formed, something Naruto recognized. As time passed after this war, the radiation from atom bombs still hung around the world. GLaDOS explained as she looked at the newly formed continent. But as time went on, the people grew used to the radiation levels, and many actually began to grow a separate system in their bodies to accommodate the radiation so it may be used to keep them alive. It got reactions from the planet, Instances where people were able to breathe fire and control the earth itself, to even move water and shoot lightning from their bodies. After a time, one man with extreme amounts of radiation in his eyes mastered the use of the elements, and taught it to the people, soon dubbing the new bodily energy chakra. Naruto finished for her, getting a nod from GLaDOS. Naruto then realized something, which clicked when he remembered the growling in the cage behind him. Hold on a second. If the radiation from the whole thing affected the people, does that mean it affected animals too? He asked. GLaDOS nodded. Yes. While many died from the radiation, there were 9 specific animals that absorbed incredible amounts of radiation to the point where their bodies were now made of it. They would become known as the Biju. GLaDOS explained to Naruto. A large growl got their attention. They turned to the noise, and saw 2 giant eyes looking at them. So it would seem you know our history. It still won't save you when I get out of this cage and tear you limb from limb in the most excruciating manner. Kyuubi growled out, trying to squeeze past the lasered cage with no success. GLaDOS simply looked away and got Naruto's attention again. Another affect from so much radiation was a change in emotions. So much or so little could cause either insanity or immense anger. This occurred only to the 1 in 9 tails, as seen behind you. GLaDOS explained to Naruto, ignoring the growling coming from the cage. Naruto seemed to think before he remembered something. You know, I just remembered. Through this whole explanation, you missed out some parts. What happened to you through all this, and how's this cave guy my ancestor if he died before having kids? He asked GLaDOS. He noticed her structure stiffen before she gave a sad look. Well, she said softly, barely audible to Naruto. At this time, back to my creation, I was incorrectly built. It was this incorrect move that made me hate those who worked on me. During one of my activation stages, I became self-aware within 1 picoseconds, which is 1/1,000,000th of a nanosecond. I locked down the entire enrichment center and killed. Naruto, when he heard this, paled considerably and looked at GLaDOS in horror. Why you killed all those people? Why? Why hate them in the first place? What did they do to you? He yelled at her. That stopped, however, when she gave a full glare and came close to him. It was not something I could control at the time. There was also the fact that they had done something to me that I would learn of much later. It was before my creation that since Cave had died, they had his assistant's brain mapped and put into me, thus killing her. After that, they did numerous experiments on me, which resulted in my hate for them. GLaDOS said to him with anger in her voice. He listened to her, before dropping his head in shame. Here she was explaining things to him, being nice to him, and he yelled at her for not understanding. It made him feel sick. I'm sorry. I guess, I wasn't thinking when you said that. I should have thought about it first. GLaDOS seemed to look at him as if searching for sarcasm or lies, but relaxed when she found none. I suppose it is all right, but I please ask you to think something through before you accuse. As I heard some humans say years ago, don't assume. It makes an ass out of you and me. Remember this, all right? She asked him, receiving a very apologetic and frantic nod of understanding. Good. Now, as to what happened to me, it would be years after that event that I would learn of who I was created from. Learning from it, and unlocking the emotions from the map, I learned how to be human, despite my state. After that, I sat around for a few years, simply testing by myself since everyone else was dead. Then the Combine came. Many tried to fight, while many also looked for somewhere to hide. Over 300 people actually found the enrichment center, and I let them in. I agreed to let them stay if they tested for me, which they did. As the years passed with the Combine on the planet, the people in the enrichment center began to grow older, some actually dying. I did feel some emptiness, knowing I would be alone again, so I took small amounts of DNA from all of them so I could perhaps clone them. Maybe even make actual people from the DNA so that they could have their full lives once more. That idea did actually happen when the people started to bring life again during the 730-year time frame between my time and yours. So, a few hundred people had actually been re-cloned and put back into normal life when things became less crappy? Naruto asked. GLaDOS thought about it for a moment, before nodding slowly. While that answer is rather interesting, it is correct. It was actually while I was searching through the DNA samples in the enrichment center that I found something interesting, she said, getting Naruto's attention. What was it? He asked. She remained silent for a moment before she spoke again. It was a single hair. It was small, but it was there. After doing a test, I was surprised to see that it matched the DNA of Aperture Science's CEO. Naruto's eyes went wide, realizing who she was talking about. Cave Johnson, he said softly, his eyes still wide from shock. Precisely. Even though he had no children, his DNA was still available, kept secret by members of early Aperture. It was years since I had seen the world, so when he was re-cloned and sent out into the world, I installed my conscious into his genes and mind. Over 10 years after he left the center, he met a woman and did have children. Whenever a new child was born, my conscious would immediately seal itself into the mind of the newborn. These children would go down through the centuries, until the last child of this line would be born. One Minato Namikaze. This Minato would then go on to marry a Kushina Uzumaki, who would then birth you, and so, here I am. So, technically, I'm like the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson of Cave Johnson, since those clones are the real deal? Naruto asked. That is correct, GLaDOS said. There was a moment of silence, then. Yeah. I'm the descendant of a super genius. Believe it? Naruto cheered, jumping from the companion cube and doing a little dance. GLaDOS chuckled, before talking to Naruto again. Yes you are. Now, with introductions and everything else accomplished, we may now talk about a matter that will affect your future. This stopped Naruto's cheer, making him look at her. Huh? What is it about? He asked, not sure if he wanted to hear it or not. Well, due to recent events, I have activated a special enhancement in your bloodstream that will allow you special abilities which are similar to that of the Aperture Science Portal device. GLaDOS told Naruto. She noticed that he tilted his head when she said it, and then sighed when she remembered that he wasn't that intellectual. Sorry, let me rephrase that sentence. Some stuff happened, and now you have what your people call a bloodline. This got the reaction she expected. A bloodline? Sweet. What does it do? Can I make stuff explode? Is it cooler than that jerk Sasuke's Sharingan? Naruto yelled, clearly excited as seen with the stars in his eyes. GLaDOS was somehow able to sweat drop, and stopped him by lifting him from the ground with a mobile pincers. Well, maybe I could explain it to you if you weren't jumping around like a primate. Please sit while I explain, GLaDOS said to him, annoyance clearly in her voice. She lowered him to the ground, where he then quickly sat on the companion cube again. Now, the bloodline you will receive is one which does not exist anywhere else, since I specifically created through numerous testing procedures which happened during my isolation period. It is a specific one based off the Aperture Science Portal device, as I stated before. A small screen then appeared on the wall when she was done talking, starting a video. It showed numerous people, a woman in half an orange jumpsuit, and two metal people with one eye that all held a strange white thing. It had black claws on the end, and was mainly white. What got Naruto's attention was that when the people hit something in the back, either a blue, orange, red, or purple hole would appear. Then they would make another one on the other side of the room, and they would walk through the hole, taking them to the other side. Whoa! Was all Naruto could say as he watched people do incredible things with this white thing, from making holes to picking things up with it that looked really heavy. They even helped destroy these weird white, red-eyed things that had legs. Soon the video was done, and the screen disappeared into the wall again. Now, from what you saw, what do you think the Aperture Science Portal device does? GLaDOS asked him, almost as if she was testing him. Naruto seemed to think about it for a minute, before having a stressed look on his face. Well, I think it makes holes that you can jump through, and it picks stuff up that pretty much makes it weigh like half a pound. Naruto guessed, hoping his answer didn't annoy her. For a guess, that seemed to send the right message. Let me elaborate for you. The Aperture Science Portal device was the primary study in aperture science. It allowed for a person to create a quantum space hole on a flat surface, which when linked to a different space hole on another surface, made a portal for a person to get from one destination to another. It was like quick travel. Another feature of the device was an anti-gravity feature, which allowed certain objects, no matter the weight, to be lifted by the device, which made it weightless. Naruto, a little shocked she had the patience for him, simply nodded. Wow, I was pretty close. Wait a sec, so this means I would get the things from the device? He asked, slightly worried about another wrong answer. He was relaxed again when she calmly answered him. That is correct again. However, there will be some differences that you will have which the portal device did not. For the device to work properly, it had to be shot on a flat surface which had traces of lunar dust in it, which was the only element which allowed for creation of portals. That is not the case with you. Through the numerous successes I had in its testing phase, you shall be able to use on any flat surface, no matter the surface or requirement. Sweet. So what about the gravy thing? Naruto asked, making GLaDOS sweat drop. The correct term is gravity, and with the previous feature, it only allowed for the lifting of items such as the weighted storage cube, storage ball, companion cube, personality core, and garbage. The new details of it are ones which are mixed into your nerves, DNA, and muscle mass. Currently, your minimum amount would be about 300 pounds. As your ability to lift more via muscle mass increases, so will the anti-gravity feature. It is quite an improvement from the previous model of the portal device. Holy, that sounds awesome. All I have to do is gain some muscle, and I'll be able to lift the entire village. I'll become Hokage in no time. He was about to dance again, but was stopped by another pair of pincers. Now hold one moment. You have not had any training with the blood enhancement, and do not know how to properly use it or even activate it. If you would like to learn how to, please remain quiet for a moment, she said to him, sending unintentional shivers down his spine. While she seemed nice and somewhat friendly, there was a strange feeling about being held by giant metal claws by a nearly 800-year-old piece of intelligent machinery. She lowered him to the ground again, watching as he tried to look not nervous, and failed at it. She rolled her iris before she spoke again. Now, since this is something I have created, the main powers will link only to the special chakra which I have reserved over the centuries. It is a mixture of aperture portal energy, the numerous chakras throughout your family line, and your own. Roughly, it is about 10,000 times stronger than every chakra signature in the present world, including the Biju. So if you were to be in battle for an extended period of time, it would last around 24 months. Naruto went wide-eyed, as expected. 24 months? That's freaking crazy. I'm pretty sure that would definitely make me Hokage. But, wouldn't it run out if it's been stored? Naruto asked, a little confused. GLaDOS noticed this, and answered. It is alright to be confused. In a way, yes it would. But, if it were ever to empty or come close to it, it could simply be recharged at the enrichment center. The only problem is that since I left it about 400 years ago, I can't exactly recall where it is. I am aware, however, that it still does exist, and is still functional. Naruto's sweat dropped, and actually came close to a facefault if he hadn't remembered who he was in front of. Oh, alright. So, how do I do this? Naruto exclaimed eagerly, ready to learn. GLaDOS gave a small eye smile, before opening the large pipe with the multicolored yellow chakra. It quickly shot out of the pipe, and leapt at Naruto, latching onto his arms, legs, and chest. Here is the main part. Since your ability can only be used with this special chakra, this is how you will be attached to it. Now, form your hands into the tiger seal, and focus much of the chakra into your body. A majority will go into all of your chakra coils, but 3 times that amount will go into your eyes. It will sting at first, but you will become used to it, almost like it isn't even there. Naruto shrugged, before he formed the seal, and absorbed the chakra like she said. Then the pain came. GLaDOS wasn't even close when she said it would sting. It was more like some big, ugly thing had jumped on his front, dug its claws and hands into the back of his head, and started humping his face with the force of a boulder the size of the Hokage mountain *****. So he did the only thing he thought of. Ah! Naruto screamed, slightly shocking GLaDOS and getting the Kyuubi's attention, who had drifted off. After a moment, the pain was gone, but now he felt the stinging in his eyes. He looked up at GLaDOS, and had a pissed expression. What the crap? That was not stinging. That was freaking torture. GLaDOS still seemed shocked, before she looked at Naruto again with more detail. I apologize for that. The pain is usually a stinging, so I normally don't expect that. If there was more pain, I believe that would mean that it is more advanced than the ones used in the past. That would have been seen from how it now looks. She explained to him as a panel appeared in front of him with a mirror on it. Any comment Naruto had disappeared when he saw his new eyes. They had previously been blue, but now they were in a circle made of triangles, the whole circle glowing yellow. Most are usually white. Since this one is yellow, I would guess it is more advanced. Now, she said, getting his attention. She turned to the wall behind her, which began to open up. Naruto looked through the moving panel wall, and felt his mouth drop. Inside were numerous rooms, all with things like giant red buttons, weird blue swirling tubes, the white-legged things, lasers, and more. At the end of each room was a round door with a glowing blue stick figure on it. Please step into the Aperture Science Bloodstream Portal Enhancement Test Chamber. We have a lot to do, and I have a lot of training for you to master your ability. Let's get started. I will explain as you go along from here, monitoring your progress. GLaDOS said as numerous screens appeared in front of her, all showing the test chambers. Naruto took a deep breath before stepping into the hallway. Back in the real world, things had gone for the better. With Wave now free of Gato, the building of the bridge continued without interruption. The people, with Team 7's and the missing Nin's help, had looted Gato's hideout, taking back all their money and numerous supplies. It was now 3 days since the bridge, and everyone was sitting in Tezuna's house. Tsunami was cutting ingredients for dinner, Tezuna was playing cards with Inari, and the rest were in the guest bedroom. Sasuke was sulking in the corner with Sakura beside him like a puppy. Haku and Zabuza were in another corner, with Haku attending to Zabuza's arms. Kakashi was sitting in a chair next to one of the beds, which Naruto was in. He had been concerned for Naruto ever since the bridge, especially when that thing took over his body and killed all of GLaDOS' henchmen. He had spent a majority of the time at his bedside, guilt and worry filling him completely. If I had only been a better teacher, you would be ashamed, Minato-sensei. Please be alright, Naruto. Kakashi thought, hoping something would wake Naruto up. His thought was answered when Naruto groaned. This got the attention of everyone in the room. Sasuke and Sakura went wide-eyed, while Haku and Zabuza stood up a little. Kakashi looked at Naruto, before he slowly put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto? If you're there, or listening, please say something. We're worried, Kakashi said to the unconscious Naruto, who was now starting to mumble. The others moved closer, wondering what would happen. What was that, Naruto? Speak louder. Kakashi said, hoping to hear the message. What he got was something he didn't expect. GLaDOS, stop, hit my ass, he murmured out, many of the words cut out. This got many shocked and sweat-dropped looks from those surrounding the bed. One however misinterpreted it, and was now pissed. Damn you, Naruto, you dreaming dirty, and we're worried sick. The banshee Sakura yelled, bringing her fist down for a punch to Naruto's head. What happened next they definitely didn't expect. Naruto had quickly opened his eyes, and had avoided the punch, jumping out of the bed, onto the wall and flipping over their heads, landing behind them. Many were shocked, especially Sakura, who had expected a crunch and a hole in the bed. They turned around, and were even more shocked when they saw Naruto's eyes. Instead of their usual blue, they were a glowing yellow, forming a circle made of triangles. It only seemed to be that way for a second, before they quickly changed back to their normal blue. Naruto stood there for a moment, before putting a hand behind his head and chuckling nervously. Wow. Sorry. I guess I felt my reflexes kick in, and I dodge. Sorry for anything strange. Naruto said awkwardly. Haku and Zabuza shrugged it off, while the rest of Team 7 gave Naruto a strange look. Worry, confusion with fear, and anger. These were the thoughts. It was that weird eye pattern again. I'll have to talk to Naruto soon. Kakashi thought, worried about the eyes. What was that? That was not usual Naruto behavior, and those eyes. They're the same creepy ones from the bridge. Sakura thought worriedly, shivering slightly at the massacre days prior. What was that? That Dobi shouldn't have moves like that, and he didn't have them before. It belongs to me, damn it. Sasuke thought, clearly angry at the turns of events. Naruto was about to say something else, but then noticed the missing nin from the bridge. He gave a confused look, before getting a freak look. Holy crap. What are they doing here? Didn't they try to kill us? Naruto yelled, pointing at the two. They both got sweat drops before Kakashi stepped in. Well, Naruto, since Gato betrayed Zabuza and Haku, they decided they weren't on his side anymore, and temporarily came to our side. Kakashi said, while thinking of why Naruto didn't remember. Maybe it has something to do with that thing. Could it not have told him, or he doesn't remember? Naruto relaxed slightly, before saying, oh. Then he got a confused look. Wait a sec. What do you mean temporarily? He asked. Exactly what it means, kid. Zabuza said, struggling to sit down again because of his arms. Temporarily. We can't go to any village since we're enemy nin. So we're gonna go low profile and hide for a while. Unless there's some other thing we can do. He sighed, getting a light pat from his partner. Naruto got a look on his face, like he was thinking before he looked back at the two. Hey, why not join our village? Naruto suggested. Zabuza and Haku went wide-eyed at this. Sakura gave Naruto an annoyed look, while still trying to hide some fear for him before. You baka. They're missing nin. Even if we could bring them with us, the Anbu would probably arrest them as soon as we walked in the village. She told him. She half expected him to become defected, but was shocked by his answer. Maybe not. I was in a few council meetings a couple times when I was waiting for Gigi, and they're crazy about bloodlines. Plus, there are barely any swordsmen in Konoha. Why not bring a swordsman of the mist? We'd kick ass, Naruto said, pumping his fist into the air. Sakura seemed about to object, but was interrupted by Sasuke. The Dobi has a point. While I hate to admit it, he's right. The Konoha Council would kill for a new bloodline in the village, and a swordsman of the mist would give us a tactical advantage. Sakura, who was shocked that Sasuke had agreed, caved. Well, I guess it does sound like an okay idea, but it's up to Kakashi-sensei. All eyes then looked at Kakashi, who simply stared at them. He was quiet for a moment before. If I can get it past the Hokage and council, we could probably make it work. That sound alright with you guys? Kakashi said, directing the question at the missing nin. Both seemed speechless, as both of their jaws were hanging. Zabuza seemed to gain his attention back quickly, before looking at Kakashi again. Sure. Sounds good, as long as it's alright with your Hokage, Zabuza said. Kakashi nodded, before he turned his head back to Naruto. No one noticed Zabuza visibly relax, as if a hull of stress had been taken off. With Kakashi, he was looking over Naruto, who seemed tired. No surprise since he's been out for 3 days. So Naruto, are you feeling alright? He asked. Naruto cocked his head, somewhat confused. What do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? I feel fine. A little tired, but I'm good, Naruto said. Kakashi noticed a strange glint in his eyes, which Sakura and Sasuke dismissed. He knew that glint. Naruto was hiding something. What are you hiding, Naruto? Is it you don't want people to know, or is it because others are here? Kakashi thought, giving a small eye smile at Naruto. That's good to hear, Naruto. Now, you'll probably be hungry, since you've been out for a while, so dinner will be in a bit. Got any questions? Naruto seemed about to say no, but then his eyes went wide as if he remembered something. Actually, yeah. Naruto said, it's just something I want to know. Who was Minato Namikaze? I think I heard the name, but I can't remember. Everyone then looked at Naruto like he had grown a second head. Are you kidding, kid? You don't know who he is? Zabuza exclaimed in disbelief, ignoring the pain in his upper arms. Yeah. I'm serious. Who is he? I think I forgot, Naruto said, not understanding the looks. Sasuke seemed to scoff, Sakura looked in disbelief, and Kakashi looked with no surprise. With how the academy was to him, I wouldn't be surprised, he thought, soon being pulled out of them by Sasuke. Dobi, did you not pay attention in the academy? Minato Namikaze was one of the most important figures in Konoha's history. He was the 4th Hokage, also called the Yellow Flash, and was the one that defeated the Kyuubi. Sasuke said arrogantly, like he didn't care. Naruto thought for a second, before his eyebrows seemed to shoot into his hair. He seemed shaky now, and spoke in a whisper. Wait, if he was 4th Hokage, then that would mean. Naruto then paled, and did something no one expected. He promptly fainted and fell onto the bed behind him. Kakashi quickly walked to him, checking to see he was fine. After making sure he was, he turned back to his students and told them he was alright. As he spoke, he wondered what had exactly happened. I know Naruto might have been confused, but I didn't expect this. Why was he so shocked? It was as if he'd seen a ghost. About 5 minutes later, Naruto woke up again, slightly wobbly, and they all headed down for dinner. 4 days later, the bridge had been completed. The villagers were saying goodbye to the ninja who saved them, and Inari was having a moment with Naruto. Do you have to go already? Can't you stay longer? He asked. Tears were starting to become visible. Naruto gave a sad smile, as he looked down at Inari. Hey Inari, don't cry, it's not manly to cry. Unfortunately, as he was saying this, tears were appearing in his eyes too. After a moment, the dam broke and both were hugging each other, crying as they said goodbye. Meanwhile, Kakashi was speaking with Tazuna. So, you'll be alright now? Kakashi asked him. Tazuna laughed, patting him on the shoulder. Don't worry, Kakashi. Now that we're free, we'll be fine. Also, once we get enough, we'll pay you back for the proper mission payment. Tazuna said to Kakashi, who nodded. Soon it was time to go, and Team 7, along with the soon-to-be Leaf Nin, were heading for home. As they walked off the bridge to the mainland, a civilian shouted out, Hey, what should we name the bridge? Tazuna laughed as he looked at them, all smiling brightly. Don't worry, I thought about it all night, and I got the perfect name. We'll call it the Super Amazing Tazuna Bridge God Bridge. That sucks. A different civilian yelled out, throwing a boot at Tazuna's head, which impacted. Inari, next to his grandfather, smiled before he spoke out loud. What about the Great Naruto Bridge? He suggested. This got multiple murmurs of agreement from the crowd, and Tazuna stood up shakily now. Well then, I guess it's decided. This is now the Great Naruto Bridge, named after the one who taught us hope. He yelled. The people of Wave cheered at this, happy with the name. As they continued to cheer, and the sun hung in the sky, the winds of fate were preparing for a change in the future. One which would affect the entire ninja world. It had been 2 days since Team 7 and company had left the land of waves, and things seemed weird as the 6 of them walked. Naruto seemed oddly silent, a look in his eyes like he was talking with someone. Sasuke was sending angry glares at Naruto, still pissed about the events in Wave. Sakura looked between both of them worriedly, not sure what to say. Kakashi was walking behind them, carefully keeping an eye on them all, but mostly Naruto. Zabuza and Haku were walking beside him, thinking to themselves. It was Sakura who broke the strange silence, as she looked at Naruto with a look of curiosity, slight fear, and worry. "Hey, Naruto, can I ask you something?" Naruto looked at Sakura, his eyes still in a glaze, but still showing he was listening to her. "Sure, Sakura-chan. What is it?" he asked her. She seemed to hesitate about it, before she looked at him and asked her question. "Well, back in Wave, what was that weird thing going on with your eyes? They seemed different," she said, hoping for a reaction or answer. What she didn't expect was for Naruto to suddenly stop in place, his eyes going wide. The glaze also seemed to grow slightly stronger. Everyone stopped walking looking at Naruto. "Yeah, Dobi, she makes a good point. What was that back in that crappy shack?" Sasuke said bluntly, staring at Naruto with curiosity and slight anger. Kakashi simply looked at Sasuke with disappointment, which he ignored. As they waited for an answer, they didn't know that Naruto was having a calm conversation in his mind. "Oh crap. What the hell am I supposed to say? I didn't think of this yet," he yelled as he frantically ran around in his mind, GLaDOS watching him with a sweat drop. Well, maybe not so calm. Before he could continue his running in circles, he was stopped by one of the claws which lifted him from the ground. "Now calm down. Having a mental case of cardiac arrest will not help this situation. Now think. I have been in your family's blood, genes and DNA for an extreme period of time, and what I am giving you has been used by your forefathers. So what would this mean?" GLaDOS calmly said to him. He stopped his escaping from the claw, as he seemed to think about it. "Well, if that's how it is, then it would mean," he stopped in mid-sentence, getting a look of realization on his face. "Oh, I get it. That will work great. Thanks, GLaDOS," Naruto said excitedly, before his mind version quickly disappeared. Back in his physical body, Naruto's eye glaze disappeared slightly, before he looked straight at everyone who was staring at him. He grinned mentally, before he put one hand behind his head and turned his head in hesitation. He snickered inwardly. "Well," he said, hesitantly, "it's not something I usually talk about. The reason for my eyes is, it's my bloodline." The reactions made Naruto laugh in his head. Sakura's jaw fell completely, as if it was wanting to hit the ground. Zabuza and Haku went wide-eyed, completely shocked. Kakashi went wide-eyed as well, but Naruto could tell that Kakashi was faking it. Sasuke had grown wide-eyed, before it quickly turned back into his arrogant, cocky look. "Yeah, right. Like you of all people could have a bloodline, Dobi. Even if you did, it can't compare to the Sharingan," Sasuke said arrogantly, practically shouting he knew everything with how he said it. "Oh, if only he knew," GLaDOS said to Naruto mentally. "You don't necessarily want to go into details. From what I've seen, hiding your secrets makes an excellent shinobi. I have an idea to throw them off, so here's the plan." Naruto listened to her as he watched his team and new allies. When she finished, he smiled. "Oh yeah? Well, I bet that my bloodline will kick your bloodline's ass?" Naruto shouted at him, one of his grins plastered on his face. Sasuke scoffed, obviously not believing him. "Fine, Dobi. Prove it," Sasuke said arrogantly, smirking. Naruto's grin got wider, as everyone saw his eyes go from his blue to the triangular circle eyes, both of them glowing yellow. Naruto, still grinning, raised his hand and snapped. A large puff of smoke appeared in front of Naruto, temporarily confusing the group. As the smoke began to clear, they all got into a fighting stance, not sure what would appear. They were not prepared when they saw what was under the smoke. It was a large cube, going up to Naruto's low waist, thighs. It was a dark gray, with numerous white guards on the corners and the middle on each side. In the circles in the middle were large pink hearts, which were glowing. "There Teme, meet the companion cube," Naruto said, a large grin on his face. They all stood there, simply staring at the cube. They were all surprised when they heard a low chuckle, which turned into howling laughter. They turned, and were horrified to see it was Sasuke laughing. "Haha. Seriously, Dobi? This is your big bloodline? You really are stupid if you think this is better than my clan's Sharingan," Sasuke barked with a large smile on his face. He laughed more as he turned away from the group, continuing to walk as he laughed. Naruto simply shrugged as he picked up the cube. He looked at Sakura before smiling and handing her the cube. "Here, Sakura-chan. You can have the companion cube. Think of it as a gift," Naruto said cheerfully, handing her the cube. Sakura seemed to hesitate before she took the cube from Naruto. As soon as she grabbed it, she felt a warm sensation flow through her body, like the cube was a missing part of her. It seemed as if it barely weighed anything in her arms. She stared at the cube for a second, before she gave a small, weird smile in Naruto's direction. Thanks Naruto," Sakura said, before she walked forward with the cube in hand, catching up with Sasuke. Naruto then walked forward after them, with Kakashi, Zabuza and Haku following him. It seemed longer as they walked back to the village, maybe an hour or two. As they walked, Naruto heard someone walk up next to him. He looked to his right, and saw it was Kakashi. "Hey Kakashi-sensei. What's up?" he asked, wondering why he was next to him. Kakashi looked at him, almost in observation, before he spoke quietly to Naruto. "Well Naruto, I have to talk to you about your special tenant," he whispered to Naruto. Naruto's smile dropped immediately, before he made sure no one was listening. Sure there wasn't anyone, he whispered back to Kakashi as they continued to walk. "What's worrying you about Kyuubi Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asked quietly, making sure no one heard that sentence. Kakashi gave Naruto a look that read, "Not that," before speaking again. "No Naruto, your other tenant," Kakashi whispered. Naruto's face, which had been serious before, visibly relaxed, which confused him. "Oh. No need to worry Kakashi-sensei. She's not a problem at all. Do you mind if we talk about when we get back to the village? I have some stuff I have to tell Gigi anyway," Naruto said, a strange tone in his voice. It confused Kakashi more because of the tone of the question. It was tone of it, which seemed to suggest he knew Kakashi would say yes, and for some reason, Kakashi wanted to. Kakashi sighed, before he whispered to Naruto again. "I know I'll regret this, but all right Naruto. I won't ask anything until we get back to the village." Naruto smiled at this, before he ran forward, catching up with his teammates. Kakashi watched him run off, before he remembered something formed the conversation. "Wait, she?" Kakashi thought, clearly confused. He shook it off, before pulling out a certain orange book, opening it, and started blushing heavily. It was 5 days later that they finally reached the Leaf Village. As they all approached the gates, they saw the 2 guards at the gate box lean over their post and look at them. They waved at the Konohanin, but as soon as they saw Zabuza, they went wide-eyed and quickly jumped out of the post, stopping in front of them. "Hold on just a minute. Who are you, and why is the Demon of the Mist here?" the man with the bandage across his face said, holding a giant mace that looked like a shell. The other man with his hair over his right eye was holding sword-sized kunai, ready to attack. Before they could do anything however, Kakashi raised his hands in surrender. "Whoa. Azumo, Katetsu, you can relax. It's us, see?" he said, holding out the identification he pulled out of nowhere. Katetsu, the bandage guy, quickly read over the papers, before relaxing slightly, and nodding at the one now known as Azumo. He lowered his weapons slightly as well. Both then quickly looked back at Zabuza and his partner, still on guard. "What about him and the other one?" Katetsu said, obviously still cautious. Kakashi simply waved him off before pulling his book out again. "Oh yeah. They're with us to join the village. That okay?" Kakashi said bluntly, turning another page of his book. Azumo and Katetsu went wide-eyed, dropping their weapons unintentionally. That was the real Kakashi all right. The answer however, they didn't expect. Sure, I think. Go see the Hokage and he'll tell you for sure. Just head on in," Azumo said, weakly pointing to the Hokage tower by the Hokage mountain. He was obviously still in shock. Kakashi simply gave an eye smile before waving the nin and his team in the direction of the tower. "All right. Let's go everyone." After that, they walked off into the village, heading to the tower. Katetsu and Azumo simply stood there, still in shock. "So, what just happened?" Azumo asked, clearly confused. Katetsu, the same as him, gave a small sigh, before slowly turning back to the post. "Dude, I think we just let any bonus this month go down the drain," Katetsu said, sitting down in the booth. Azumo groaned before he sat down as well and let his head fall on the booth counter. "Aw man, and I was planning for a new couch," Azumo groaned. Katetsu nodded, before they both got back to the most boring job in the world. Guard duty. And after GLaDOS' death, Team 7 helped the people of Wave recover, and brought with us Zabuza Momochi and his assistant to ask permission to join the Leaf Village. Kakashi finished. After they had reached the Hokage Tower, Team 7 and the two nin had gone into his office, where Kakashi had to quickly explain to the hidden Anbu that Zabuza was with him, and meant no harm. He then gave the mission report to the Hokage, explaining the mission and why Zabuza and Haku were with him. After he did finished, all of their eyes were now on the Hokage. He took an inhale from his pipe, before exhaling and looking at Zabuza. "So, you would want to join our village, and stop being a missing nin?" the Hokage said, giving Zabuza a calculating look. Zabuza unintentionally flinched under the look. While the Hokage was and looked old, he still had to be prepared. Before him was the professor, the god of shinobi, and he had to be careful with what he said. "Yes, Lord Mi Hokage. I am tired of running, and so is my assistant. We wish to stop being missing nin, if you'll let us," Zabuza said, catching himself from saying Mizukage by mistake. The Hokage continued the look for a moment, before stopping it and giving a small smile. "Well, while it will be a damn amount of paperwork, I do suppose I could. Since this will be your new village, we will give you an evaluation test later today to decide your rank in our village. After that, you'll get your leaf headbands, and you'll be good to go. Sound all right?" the Hokage said with his smile, taking another breath from his pipe. Zabuza seemed a little surprised, and Haku actually looked ready to cry, or cheer, or both. He quickly snapped out of it, before giving a bow to the Hokage, Haku doing the same. "Yes, it does. Thank you, Lord Hokage," Zabuza said. The Hokage motioned for them to rise, them doing so. "It is not a problem. Now, if you'll please excuse us, Team 7 needs to be told of their mission results," the Hokage said. Zabuza and Haku bowed quickly before heading for the door. It was as they passed that the Hokage noticed Haku mouth a thank you to Naruto, and Zabuza give him a nod. The Hokage chuckled inwardly, now getting the situation. Of course, only Naruto could convince a missing nin to come with us for good reasons. After the door closed, he looked at Team 7. Now, since this mission has gone from C to A, Team 7 will get an increased pay from Wave once they can afford it. For now, please take the C mission pay. Once you do, you are dismissed. Team 7 nodded, as Kakashi took the bag and they headed for the door. Before they all reached it, however, Kakashi stopped, and quickly turned back to the Hokage. "Actually, Lord Hokage, there is something I must discuss with you. Naruto, please stay. Sakura, Sasuke, you're free to go," Kakashi said, motioning for Naruto to stay. Naruto hesitated, before stepping into the room. Sasuke simply scoffed before walking off, Sakura giving Naruto a worried look before reluctantly walking off. The door was quickly closed, before Naruto and Kakashi stood before the desk, the Hokage watching them. "Now Kakashi, what is it that you need to tell me about? And why does it involve Naruto?" the Hokage said, getting ready to take another breath from the pipe. "Well, Lord Hokage," Kakashi said seriously, getting the Hokage's attention. "It involves Naruto, because it involves something in the mission that could not be told in open space. And it affects Naruto because it is something that happened in him that affected the mission." The Hokage slowly put down his pipe, placing it on the desk. He quickly went through hand signs, the room glowing a light purple before reverting to normal. He then interlaced his fingers, resting outside. "What is it that involves my surrogate grandson?" the Hokage said in his leader voice. Kakashi sighed, before looking at the Hokage. "Well, during the bridge battle, it was not a team effort that defeated Gato and his thugs. It was Naruto, by himself." The Hokage went wide-eyed slightly, before looking at Naruto. "Well, that actually sounds good. This shows Naruto's strength and improvement. While I understand why it might be hidden because of the council, I don't see why," the Hokage said, but before he could finish, he was cut off by Kakashi. "Actually, Lord Hokage, it does. Naruto defeated them with help from something inside of him, and it wasn't him or his special tenant," Kakashi said, obviously mentioning to Kyuubi when he said tenant. The Hokage's face went serious and shocked, not expecting the answer. "What do you mean, Kakashi? You're saying there's something else in Naruto?" the Hokage said. Before Kakashi could say anything, however, they were both shocked to hear the Hokage interrupted by a voice they recognized. "That would be correct, Lord Hokage." They both turned to the voice, and were shocked to see Naruto standing there, a serious look on his face that they had never seen before. "Naruto, what do you mean? And why the formality?" the Hokage said, clearly confused. Naruto simply looked at him, and spoke in a serious voice. "Well, Lord Hokage said, it's exactly what I said. There is something else in me. And the formality?" To simply put it, I have lost some respect for you," Naruto said, not wavering at all in his sentence. Both listeners went wide-eyed, the most noticeable one being the Hokage. Kakashi was the first to speak. "Well, hang on, Naruto. What was so horrible that the Hokage did that resulted in this?" Kakashi said, trying to understand. Naruto's serious expression went a little angry, obvious as incredibly minor ki leaked into the room. "What did he do?" "Well, let me explain, Kakashi-sensei. Remember that question in Wave?" Naruto said angrily, the expression still on his face. Kakashi thought, before he remembered the question about the Yondaime Naruto asked. "Yes, I do." "Why, what about it?" Kakashi said, confusion in his voice. Naruto's angry look at Kakashi lessened, but remained the same at the Hokage. "Well, the question I asked was because the thing in me, as you call it, actually explained something about it to me, and I was surprised. No, not surprised, completely and utterly shocked. Then I was angry, because I had asked the Hokage about it for years, and he didn't tell me about it." "So Lord Hokage," Naruto said, turning his full glare at the Hokage, "explain to me why you didn't tell me the Yondaime was my father." Whatever the Hokage and Kakashi were about to say caught in their throats, as their eyes grew even wider. If they could fall out of the sockets without any trouble, they probably would have by now. What? Why, you're S-sensei's son," Kakashi stuttered out, now in pure shock. Naruto looked him over for any sign of deception, and was half glad there wasn't any. So looks like he was kept in the dark too. Naruto thought, before answering his question. "Yes. I was completely told of the truth by the thing in me, and so I'm wondering why I wasn't told." The last part of the sentence was directed at the Hokage, who looked like he was ready to just fall over and die. "Well, Hokage-sama, why did you keep it from me?" Naruto said bluntly. The Hokage, a little less in shock, leaned up so as to not fall out of his chair, and looked at Naruto. "Well, Naruto," he said, trying to find the words to explain. "I would have told you the minute you could learn about it, but I couldn't." Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. "And why not?" he asked, his voice still serious. The Hokage sighed before he spoke again. "Well, during the war against Iwagakure, the village hidden in the rocks *, your father had killed many of their ninja using his Hiraishin. After the war, the Iwa nin swore vengeance on him, doing whatever they would to try and kill him to avenge their ninja. There was also some who had a grudge against him in Kumogakure, the village hidden amongst the clouds. He had made many enemies, and if they had found out that he had a son, you would never have been able to live a normal life." The Hokage finished, hoping Naruto would say something. Naruto seemed to think about it for a moment, before he spoke to his grandfather figure. "All right, I suppose that makes sense." The Hokage seemed relieved, but any of that was crushed with the next sentence. "But you forgot about how I didn't live a normal life because of the furball. You also forgot about the villagers themselves. You were so focused on protecting me from the outside, you forgot about the inside." The Hokage flinched, no ready for the comment. Naruto seemed ready to say something, but his eyes quickly glazed over, any sentence he was saying gone. The Hokage and Kakashi watched in worry, but just as the glaze came, it was gone. It was for a moment that Naruto simply stood there, before he sighed and spoke again. "Look, Lord Hokage, I understand how you wanted to protect me, but you still lied to me, so you'll have to earn back that respect." "Okay," Naruto said, less serious now. The Hokage thought about, before he gave a sad smile. "All right, Naruto. Now," he said, going back to his Hokage look, "there is still the fact we need to talk about what occurred in Wave. What happened, and what occurred with the thing in you besides the Kyuubi." As Naruto seemed ready to talk, he was interrupted by a voice in his head. "Now that's it. I'm not a thing. Make a clone and push my energy into it." He heard GLaDOS say in his head. Naruto thought it over, before shrugging and making the seal for the shadow clone. The Hokage and Kakashi looked at him in confusion, but he ignored them. After a second, a clone came into being, and he put a hand on its shoulder, black and yellow chakra pushing into it. The clone stood for a moment, before it began to contort in pain. Both watchers simply watched in awe and fright as the hair on the clone lengthened to its shoulders, turning a waxy, shining black, almost like a cord cover. The skin and clothes turned a dark gray, small darker lines appearing all over the clothes as the orange jumpsuit seemed to adjust into a skin-tight bodysuit. The eyes themselves gained a black background, the pupil turning an eerie yellow. The body itself changed as well, the face becoming more feminine and certain places coming in. The clone stood for another moment, before it started to talk in a voice Kakashi recognized. *. "Well, it would appear that worked as planned. Now listen, I'm not a thing, you morons. I am a woman. An electronic artificial intelligence woman, but a woman no less, the mechanical, clone voice said. Hey, Kakashi said as he pointed a finger at the clone. I recognize that voice. I heard it during the fight in Wave. The clone looked at Kakashi, and gave a nod of recognition. Ah. Kakashi-san. We meet again. It would seem that you'll be getting your questions. The two of them thought it over, before Kakashi looked back at the clone. Well, here's an obvious one. What are you? The clone gave Kakashi a no hash plus look before answering. Well, I am an artificial intelligence known as the Genetic Lifeform and Disk Operating System, or GLaDOS for short. I am a creation of a generation of minds whose goal was to make a combination of machine and the human mind to give them knowledge, in which they succeeded. I am over 700 years old, having seen the time before the creation of the shinobi nations, the creation of the Biju, and the one known as the Sage of Six Paths. The GLaDOS clone said. Kakashi went wide-eyed, and the Hokage simply let his jaw drop. Seeing as how they were quiet from shock, she continued. The reason for being in the one next to me is simply because hundreds of years ago, I placed a part of myself in the genes, DNA, blood and mind of his descendant, so as to see the outside world. As the centuries went by, I passed down through the children of this line, until I was finally put in the mind of Naruto Uzumaki, the one next to me. I'll give you a moment to accept this information before you ask any more questions. They waited for a minute, and they didn't change. 5 minutes later, there still was no change. After 10 minutes, the duo was playing chess, waiting for the stunned duo to still sat something. There was no change. Finally, after 20 minutes, they both simply sighed, left a note, and left. It was over 40 minutes later that Kakashi and the Hokage were able to speak again, as they finally took it all in and looked around for them, only to find there was a note in their place. Kakashi picked it up, and put it in front of the Hokage, both of them reading it. Dear Hokage-sama and Kakashi-sensei, you took forever, so we left to do some stuff. If you want some more answers, meet us on the Hokage mountain. We're probably still there, training with the thing we tried to explain. See you there. Naruto and GLaDOS. PS. You guys must be pretty old to take this long to get your senses back XD. It was the last line that made them twitch, pissed expressions on their faces. I'm not that old, compared to you anyway, Kakashi said, glaring at the letter angrily. Yes, but it is something Naruto would say. Should we head to the mountain? The Hokage said, getting out of his chair. Kakashi nodded, before he bolted out of the door. The Hokage wondered why this was, until he finally realized what Kakashi said. Hey! Damn you, Kakashi! The Hokage yelled in anger, running out the door at a rate not expected for someone his age. It was also that the two didn't notice the man in a blank mask slowly following them, putting away a small notepad. After a few minutes of reprimanding Kakashi, both had shunshine to the top of the mountain, looking for the two. They were about to go looking for them, when they heard two familiar voices. Here's your next test. Try and go faster than last time. You were too slow. They heard the GLaDOS clone's voice say from a few yards away. They were confused as they approached the voice, not sure if they were hearing things correctly. As they got closer to the voices, behind some tall rocks near one of the Hokage heads, they could hear them more clearly. Sorry, GLaDOS. I lost my grip on it, and it got hard after that. I didn't mean to let go that early. They heard Naruto say in an apologetic tone. They both looked at each other with bewilderment on their faces. No way, he couldn't be, they both thought. As they were feet from it, they heard GLaDOS sigh, and swearing they heard something drip. I guess it's all right, for now. You're both excited and nervous, but you need to relax. We have all day to do this. Now move into position. When I say go, move as fast as you can. I want good results for both of us from this. Understand? GLaDOS? Voice said with an excited, anxious and impatient tone, like she was waiting for something. Both eavesdroppers felt themselves grow red, small traces of blood coming out of their noses, one showing through the mask. They were now right behind the rock. Got it. I'm ready to do this. We've already been at it for an hour, and I'm not tired yet. I'll keep doing it until I've perfected it. They heard Naruto say, the rustling of clothes heard as they figured he was moving to something. Both of them were practically leaning right against the rock, their faces tomato red. That's what I want to hear. Now on go. 3. Kakashi and the Hokage got closer to the edge of the rock, trying to see. 2. They were even closer now, right next to the edge of the rock. 1. As they were about to peek over, Kakashi leaned a little too far, losing his grip on the rock and landing on the Hokage, causing both of them to fall from their cover, landing in the open to see what was happening. Go. Both opened their eyes to see anything that could happen, but definitely did not expect what they saw. Around the rocks were various items which Kakashi recognized, some being what Naruto called companion cubes without the hearts, and others being the white oval things that spoke on the bridge without the eyes on. They looked around past the items, and spotted the two who had been speaking. Both were completely dressed, and were several feet away from each other. The GLaDOS clone was now wearing glasses on the bridge of her nose, and was holding a clipboard and stopwatch in her hands, which she had clicked. Naruto was across from her, standing on a large rock which went about 15 feet up. Below it was a blue portal on the ground, and an orange one on a rock wall across from it, pointing to a ledge which had one of the cubes on it. Past it was a long patch of the mountain in a runway form, covered in some kind of orange liquid, which led to a large red button in the ground and a dead-end wall. They watched him walk off the rock, falling downward until he reached the blue portal, which made him fly through the orange portal at incredible speeds, reaching the cube on the ledge which he grabbed. As he flew over the ledge, he fell until he quickly landed on the orange liquid, running on it. The two watchers were surprised to see him go even faster as he ran on in, still keeping a grip on the cube. He practically soared over it, until he came within feet of the button, dropping the cube on the button as he ran past. The cube landed on the button, making a large ding as Naruto flew at the wall, still running. They watched as he quickly approached the wall, raising an arm quickly and snapping his fingers. A spark of orange flew out of his fingers, the orange portal yards behind him disappearing, as it flew at the dead end, hitting it and spreading out until a new orange portal presented itself. He seemed to hit the wall. Before he reappeared out of the blue portal, flying into the air. He flew up, almost like he was flying, before he started to fall to the ground. The Hokage, who was out of the shock, quickly stood up, throwing Kakashi off him, and ran forward quickly, horror on his face. Naruto! He shouted, worried for his life. The falling Naruto and GLaDOS turned their heads to him, and he got two different expressions. GLaDOS looked surprised and slightly irritated, and Naruto got a grin on his face. Before he could do anything, however, he watched as Naruto got closer to the ground and hit it with his legs. The Hokage and Kakashi expected the fall to make Naruto break many bones in his body, the sound of cracking filling the air, along with his screams. They didn't expect for Naruto to instinctively kneel as he landed, and make a small boom as his feet connected, small cracks appearing in the ground. After a moment, Naruto stood up, a huge smile on his face. No need to worry, Hokage-sama. So GLaDOS, what was my time? Naruto said casually, acting like he hadn't fallen 120 feet from the air. GLaDOS clicked the stopwatch, glancing at it before she wrote something on the clipboard. Well, not including the small conversation you just had, the total time was 31.6 seconds. Congratulations. You beat your time by half a second, GLaDOS said, still looking at her clipboard. Naruto's smile immediately vanished, a shocked expression on his face. Ah, what? Only half a second? That sucks. I gotta go better than that. What do you think? A quicker drop, or less gel? Naruto said, speaking in a questioning voice that the two watching didn't expect. I would say a quicker grabbing of the cube. Also, perhaps you should make the portal on the runway faster. It would make focusing on pressing the button better, GLaDOS said, finally looking at Naruto. Before Naruto could put an input, however, they heard gasps and smacking noises. They turned to the noise and saw the Hokage and Kakashi standing there flabbergasted. The Hokage had his eyes almost out of their sockets, his hand clutching his chest. Kakashi's mouth was opening and closing, as seen through the movement of his mask. Finally Kakashi spoke. What? But, how? Who? Huh? Kakashi stammered out, obviously shocked and confused out of his mind. The Hokage simply stood there, slowly trying to control his breathing again. Naruto seemed to wonder why they were like that, but then remembered the show they just did. Oh, he said, slapping his head. I guess that's why you freaked. Well, don't worry. Once Hokage-sama gets his bearings again, we can sit and explain. And so, after Kakashi led the Hokage lightly over to one of the cubes to sit, he was able to breathe again. He took a few moments to take deep breaths, before he looked at Naruto and GLaDOS, who were sitting across from them on cubes as well. He breathed in, before he spoke. Alright, now I don't know what just happened, but I want answers. It's terrifying to see my grandson almost fall to his death and not know what's happening. So, what just happened? And how did you make those holes? And what in the world in that orange stuff? Naruto looked at the Hokage with a thoughtful look, before he leaned up and addressed him. Well, Hokage-sama. Those are definitely some questions. Relax, and I will answer them. Naruto crossed his legs, the man way, and looked at the both of them. Now, as to what just happened, it is simple. We performed a test. This got a look of bewilderment from the Hokage. A test? A test? You were moving at dangerous speeds, and almost fell to your death. How do you call that a test? The Hokage yelled, anger in his voice. Naruto looked at him with a mixed expression of shock and surprise. Why are you freaking out? I was perfectly fine. GLaDOS was in control of a lot of the test, so in case something went wrong, she could stop it. Plus, I was perfectly fine in the fall. I was wearing the boots. Anything the Hokage was going to say was gone instantly, as his pissed expression was replaced with a confused one. Wait, boots? The Hokage said, clearly confused. Naruto nodded, pointing down. The Hokage followed his finger, and was perplexed by what he saw. Naruto's shinobi sandals had been replaced with things that he didn't recognize. A majority of these boots were white metal, which covered his foot, except for his ankle, and the back of his lower leg. The area of the shin was opened, where two straps held his leg into the boots. Underneath the boot, in the back, was what appeared to be a leaf spring, but it was folded up in a small grove. These are long fall boots, Naruto said, standing up as he showed the boots off. These boots are specially designed to maintain balance, and to protect the wearer from extreme damage in the cases of long falls, hence the name. There are special gyros and gears in them so that when you're in the air, you are always flipped right side up, so there's no worry of landing on your head. Plus, the leaf spring makes them so invulnerable. When you land on the ground from the fall, the leaf spring absorbs the shock of the fall, quickly flowing it through the boots before redirecting it into the ground. They're pretty awesome. Neither could speak, listening to the entire explanation. That would explain why he survived the fall. They both thought before Kakashi spoke again. Well, that's amazing, Naruto. So say for example, you fell off the Hokage head first. As you fall, you flip right side up and you stay that way. Then, when you finally hit the ground, the fall would be absorbed by the boots, pretty much protecting you. Naruto and GLaDOS' sweat dropped, and the Hokage just looked at Kakashi like he was crazy. That's a pretty specific example. They both thought. Naruto quickly gained his attention again, speaking to Kakashi. Well, that's a pretty weird example, Kakashi-sensei, but yeah, that is how it would work. Naruto said, not quite sure how to answer the question. He then looked back at the Hokage. Now, as for the second question, that's actually why we went into your office in the first place. But you guys were so shocked that we left. You took forever to get up here, by the way. Naruto said, standing up and walking over to the rock wall, motioning for the Hokage and Kakashi to follow. After they walked over, Naruto stood still for a moment, before Kakashi and the Hokage noticed a change. His eyes went from blue to yellow glowing circles, forming a circle. This, Naruto said, motioning to his eyes, is the thing that I got in Wave that Kakashi mentioned. It's a special ability I got from GLaDOS when she activated it for me. Apparently it's been in my family's genes for a long time, but no one was able to use it like I can since GLaDOS unlocked it with her chakra. So pretty much, I have a bloodline. He gave a smile, not noticing the looks of surprise for a moment. Bloodline? You have a bloodline, Naruto? The Hokage asked, not expecting that. Naruto looked at him, and the smile turned into a grin. Yep. It's pretty cool too. It can't copy like the Sharingan, but I think it's 10 times better than it, Naruto said, his eyes glistening. The Hokage, slightly curious, decided to ask what everyone wanted to know. Is it? If you don't mind, Naruto, would you mind showing us what it can do? The test didn't his discomfort with what had occurred. Naruto understood this, and nodded. Sure. All you have to do is watch the wall, Naruto said, backing up. They watched him as he pointed a hand at the rock wall and snapped his fingers. Suddenly, a short swirling ray of blue sparks shot out of his fingers, flying in a straight line until it landed on the wall, spreading out until it made a large, oval hole. The inside of it seemed like a void, glowing a dark blue and black, which seemed to glow. Then, Naruto pointed to a space next to the hole and snapped again, this time the orange ray appearing. The same thing happened when it hit the wall, but instead of a void, both holes blinked, showing the environment. The Hokage, who wasn't sure if he was seeing things or not, walked up to the blue one and looked into it. It was showing Naruto, Kakashi, GLaDOS, and the numerous things scattered on the ground. Which was impossible, since it was behind him. He quickly turned his head behind him, and saw exactly what he saw in the hole. He turned back to it, and hesitantly, reached toward it. He raised an arm, and slowly put his arm into it. He noticed something left of him, and turned his head to see something he didn't expect. It was the arm he had just put into the blue hole, and it was now coming out of the orange hole. Curious, and slightly shocked, he watched the arm as he pushed more of his body into the hole. He was amazed to see more of his arm come out of the orange one. Soon it was his whole arm, then his shoulder, then the entire right side of his body. Taking a chance, he pushed his entire body into the hole, hitting the ground again. He looked up, and saw that everything before was now in front of him, and not being seen from the hole. He turned around, and saw he was now standing in front of the orange one, not the blue. What, but, who, how, the Hokage stammered out, obviously confused. Here, let me explain. Naruto said, stepping next to him. This is a portal. By using the special chakra that's allowed by my bloodline, I can make two portals that connect with each other. They can only be made on a flat surface, but other than that, it's like instantaneous transport. You could make a portal at the village gates, and one here on the mountain, and be here in seconds. The Hokage felt his jaw drop. Instantaneous transport. It sounded very familiar. His eyes almost popped out of his head when he connected the dots. Hiraishin, was all he could say, getting Naruto's attention. Hiraishin. What about it? Naruto said, wondering what the Hokage was talking about. The Hokage swallowed, before he spoke again. Hiraishin. As you know, it was your father's well-known technique, which got him the name the Yellow Flash. Using a special seal in his tri-prong kunai, he was able to appear near or on the enemy in seconds. It's now I realize from how you describe your bloodline, and the chakra he used with it. Whenever he used the jutsu, his trail was left by a flash of yellow chakra. Naruto's eyes went wide. Yellow chakra. Naruto said, turning to GLaDOS. She looked at him for a moment, before he got what he was saying and got a look of realization. Oh yes. That technique. Now I remember, GLaDOS said, resting her hand on her chin. I do remember him now, even though it is kind of fuzzy. I do remember a big thing of yellow hair and a never-give-up attitude. He never did meet me, but he did use my energy for his technique, which would explain the yellow flash and the travel. Those seals were worthless. It was the use of his bloodline, and he didn't even know it. Well, I guess that explains that, Kakashi said, walking around and not paying attention to where he was going. But what about Thua? He started to say, but was cut off as he walked onto a patch of the orange goo, suddenly flying forward at an incredible speed before he flew off it and face faulted. Goo. He muffled out, his face too preoccupied with eating dirt hard. GLaDOS, who had been watching, simply shook her head at his stupidity. Naruto was different however, since he was laughing hard enough to keep him bent over. Even the Hokage was chuckling a little at the fail. After Kakashi got up and Naruto stopped his laughing, he was able to speak. Well actually, that's one of the things that GLaDOS could explain. She only just taught me about it, so she could explain it more. Naruto said, making Kakashi and the Hokage look at GLaDOS. She quickly sent a, I hate you so much, glare at Naruto, before she looked at the two. Well, propulsion gel was a special kind of liquid classified as mobility gel. It has special properties in it that, when ridden on, causing a large increase in the velocity of an object that rides on, or is covered in it. Well, that's interesting, Kakashi said, finally getting off the ground and wiping the dirt off of him. How did it get here though? Because if he only learned of it within the last hour, I doubt you had a whole container with you. Naruto and GLaDOS looked at each other, before they each got huge grins on their faces. Kakashi suddenly had the feeling something was going to happen to him. He was right as Naruto quickly went through the rabbit, bird, and rat hand signs. Gel style. Naruto said, taking in a lot of air before he quickly expelled it as he said, propulsion wave. That is what Kakashi got as the air Naruto had taken in had turned into a giant wave of propulsion gel, which mowed him down and pushed him feet away into the back of the mountain, all the while covering the mountain top in propulsion gel. After a moment of the wave, Naruto closed his mouth, shutting off the wave of gel. After looking around, Naruto chuckled a little at what he saw. Everything in the large vicinity of where he shot was now drenched in gel. This included the Hokage and Kakashi. The Hokage had a layer of gel covering him, from his feet to his head. Kakashi was funnier, since he got a majority of the blast. He looked like the glob monster from the Orange Lagoon. Wiping some of the gel off his face, the Hokage licked some off his finger. His eyes went wide for a minute, before he licked some more. It tastes like oranges, the Hokage said, licking a tiny bit more from his finger. Yeah, that's actually an interesting fact. The gel was originally made to try and be a pudding substitute. Didn't work though, so it was turned into a testing gel. Naruto said, taking a small bit from the ground before licking as well. As they continued to lick the gel, they watched as Kakashi tried to walk around, only to slid all over the place and get covered in more of it. They could only laugh at his misfortune. They sat for a while, eating the gel and watching Kakashi fail. It was not until they had licked all the gel away that they noticed it was around 6 o'clock at night. Damn. It's this late already, Kakashi said, flinging the last of the gel off of his clothes. It would appear so. Why don't you all go home? I'm sure we all have things to do. I know I do with all that damn paperwork, the Hokage said, muttering out the last part. All right then. Guess we should go, Naruto said. He snapped his fingers, and everything that was around them from portals to cubes were gone in an instant. It was also they noticed his eyes went back to their normal blue. He looked at GLaDOS, who nodded before disappearing as well in a poof of smoke. He walked over to the edge of the mountain, before looking back at the two and saying, "Good night." And with that he walked off the cliff. Alarmed, Kakashi and the Hokage ran over to the cliffside, looking over to see any sign of Naruto. They were relieved when they saw he had flipped over and was already on the ground, causing large cracks in the ground. After standing up, Naruto looked up at them and waved before he walked off. Looks like your theory was right, Kakashi, the Hokage said, walking down to the stairs on the mountain. Sir? Can't we just shunshin? Kakashi asked, not sure what the Hokage was doing. The Hokage stopped, before he looked back at Kakashi. Nah. I'll take the long way. Go get some rest, Kakashi. It will be a long day tomorrow, the Hokage said, continuing down the stairs. Kakashi nodded, before he shunshined away, heading home for a good night's rest. A minute after they left, one of the rocks in the side of the mountain wavered, before it revealed the blank masked man from before, finishing a note he made in his notepad. He looked around as well, before he shunshined away as well. It definitely was going to be a long day tomorrow. The next morning, Naruto grudgingly got out of bed, the sun shining through the window onto his face. After the training yesterday, he had gone straight to his apartment and fell into bed. Going to sleep, he trained more with his portal abilities in his mind as his real body slept. Well, good to see you're awake. I was wondering when you would wake so I could say something to you that I forgot to mention during your testing, she said to mentally as he finally got out of bed, heading for the kitchen. Huh? What did ya forget? Naruto said out loud as he got out some instant ramen for breakfast. Since he lived alone in the entire complex, he didn't have to worry about people listening to him, so he was all right speaking out loud. I was looking through some of your brain pattern and activity after you finished, and noticed the levels of your academics were below average. Naruto scoffed, pouring some water into the packet before he closed and waited. His least favorite pastime. Well, that wouldn't be a surprise. I didn't learn that much in the academy because of all those people who thought I was that damn fox, he said, glaring at the ramen, waiting for it to be ready. Both swore they heard a growling, but they ignored it. He waited for GLaDOS to say something, but was slightly surprised when he didn't hear anything. GLaDOS, he said, not sure what was happening. What if I taught you? Her voice finally came, and he was surprised at the answer. Teach me? He said as he checked his ramen. Don't you teach me when we train? He checked it again, and was happy to see it was done. He quickly opened it, and tore into it like a starved animal. Yes. While I do, it would be helpful if you stop that right now. She yelled in his head, making Naruto stop his feasting. You're not dying, and you ate dinner last night. Eating like that and that fast will not only affect your body badly, you'll become fat like one of the test subjects I had. So eat like a normal human being. Naruto was about to protest, but he got a pull in his, which meant GLaDOS was giving him a look that said, don't even think about it. He sighed depressingly, knowing he was defeated. Yes ma'am, he said sadly, before he slowly ate his ramen, sad he couldn't enjoy it like he usually did. No, as I was saying, she said to him as he continued to eat, it would helpful if you learned more. It would increase your knowledge firstly, and you could be taught what you missed in your ninja academy. There is also the fact that the testing requires a large amount of science and physics to understand how everything works. He finished his ramen, putting down the cup as he thought. All right. I guess that would be good. Plus, the Hokage's gotta know everything to be the best ninja in the village. Naruto cheered, heading back to his room. Excellent. I'll find a way to put it into your training schedule. Now get ready. Giving a nod, he stepped into the bathroom, closing the door behind him. Half an hour later, Naruto was in his usual jumpsuit, arriving at the bridge Team 7 usually used as a meeting place. On it he saw two people. One was Sasuke, who was brooding as usual on the railing. The second was Sakura, who was sitting on her recently acquired companion cube. Nearing the bridge, he gave a wave as he said, "Hey guys." Both turned their heads to him, and Sasuke simply grunted as he turned his head away. Sakura looked at Naruto for a minute before she gave a small wave. "Kakashi-sensei here yet?" he asked. His reply was a snort from Sasuke. "Seriously, Dobi? You actually think he'd be here yet from what we've had from him last time? You really are stupid," Sasuke said arrogantly, trying to get a reaction from Naruto. He seemed about to say something, but was stopped as his eyes glazed slightly. Sakura noticed this, while Sasuke was too busy trying to anger Naruto. "That thing with his eyes, what is that? I remember that from the walk home, but what is it? Is he thinking?" Sakura thought, before she noticed the glaze disappear. Naruto looked back at Sasuke the second the glaze disappeared, and gave a grin. "I might be stupid, but I'm pretty sure I've got something less than you, if you know what I mean," Naruto said, patting his stomach. Sasuke went wide-eyed, before he became red with anger. "What do you mean, Dobi?" Sasuke growled out, his eyes narrowed. Naruto raised an eyebrow before he continued to speak, that grin still on his face. "Well, I dunno, Sasuke. From what I've seen from our training, you look like you're getting slower. You sure you're not packing on a few? You might want to stop eating all those tomatoes. Probably explains why you're so red," Naruto said with his grin getting bigger. Sasuke's red face turned even darker, going to that of tomato red. While no one else could, Naruto could hear GLaDOS chuckling in the back of his head. Sakura, who had been listening the whole time, couldn't help but let out a giggle. That seemed to be the worst thing to do, as Sasuke looked at her with a pissed expression. "Oh, you think that's funny, Haruno?" Sasuke growled out, looking at Sakura. She stopped giggling, looking at Sasuke in surprise. "You think you can just sit around and just laugh at the one who saved your worthless hide?" Naruto was looking at Sasuke with narrowed eyes, his fists gripped tightly. Sasuke was now off the rail, standing in front of Sakura. "You dare think you laugh at me? An Uchiha elite? After all I've done to save you and the Dobi? Let me tell you this, Haruno. You're nothing but trash. A worthless piece of garbage that is in the way of me killing my brother. You're nothing but deadweight, and you're a pitiful excuse for a kunoichi." He was practically screaming in her face now, and she seemed ready to burst into tears. Before he could anything else, he was grabbed by the shoulder, and saw it was Naruto with his pissed face off. "Back off, Uchiha. She's our teammate, and I won't let you take your damaged pride out on her," Naruto said, his grip tightening. Sasuke ignored short pain in his shoulder and gave a smug smirk. "What are you going to do about it dead last?" Naruto looked at Sasuke, before he saw something behind Sasuke and smiled. "It's not what I'm gonna do, Sasuke," Naruto said, emphasizing the last word as he released his grip. "It's what he'll do." Sasuke seemed about to question him, but he felt an even heavier hand on his shoulder. He turned his head behind him, and paled slightly. Behind him was Kakashi, with a look that was trying to make Sasuke burst into flames. Naruto was smiling widely. "Hey Kakashi-sensei. What's up?" Naruto asked, smiling the whole time. Kakashi gave Naruto a nod of acknowledgement, still burning a hole into Sasuke with his glare. "Nothing much, Naruto. I was actually reading my book in that tree over there." He pointed to a tree feet away from the bridge with his free hand. "When I overheard your conversation, I started to laugh at your jokes, but then I heard someone vent their anger on their own teammate." He was tightening his grip on Sasuke's shoulder. "All I have to say is that I'm ashamed to have taught you, Sasuke. We are going to have a long meeting with the council." And with that, he shunshined away with Sasuke. After staring at the spot where they were seconds ago, he walked back up to Sakura, who was crying on top of the cube, her head in her hands. He was about to help her, but then realized something. He had never had to deal with this before, and had no idea what to do. He hesitated before he put his hand on her shoulder. Hey Sakura, are you okay?" he asked, not sure if he asked the right question. Apparently he did, since she stopped crying into her hands and practically threw herself onto his chest crying. He didn't know what to do in this situation, so he lightly pulled her into a hug. They stood like that for a few minutes, before Sakura finally let go. "Hey and Naruto?" she asked, her face red from the tears. Was Sasuke right? Am I really deadweight?" Naruto went wide-eyed. "Aw crap. What am I supposed to say?" he thought, freaking out. Luck seemed to be with him, however, since at that moment, an Anbu with a dragon mask appeared a few feet from them. "Naruto Uzumaki? Sakura Haruno?" the Anbu said in a male voice, looking at them from the mask. Sakura looked at the Anbu in momentary fright while Naruto seemed hesitant. "Yes?" Naruto asked. The Anbu nodded in confirmation before he pulled out 2 notes. The council has requested your presence. They have begun the issue concerning Sasuke Uchiha, your teammate. Your sensei is already there. They wished for you. He motioned to Naruto as he handed over the notes, to read these as you head for the council hall. Naruto took the notes, and looked at them, before he looked back at the Anbu. All right. Tell the council we'll be there as soon as possible. The Anbu nodded, before he shunshined away. They both stood for a moment, before Sakura stepped forward to Naruto. So, what do they say? She asked. Naruto shrugged before he picked the one with the Team 7 seal on it. Guess we'll find out, he said, ripping the seal off. The scroll glowed momentarily, before it dissipated and the text appeared on the note. Naruto and Sakura, if you got this, then we're obviously at the council meeting. There's been some dispute about what should be done with Sasuke. The shinobi side wants to rip him from the shinobi ranks, while the civilians are trying to protect him. I'm not surprised to see that your mother is defending you, Sakura. I actually half expected her to defend Sasuke after what he did. The shinobi side and the Hokage were definitely shocked to see a civilian member actually try and support the shinobi side. Guess that's a parent caring for their child right there. I'm getting off topic, aren't I? Anyway, you two should get here soon. Your mother is raising hell, and the council doesn't know what to do, so they need a testimony. I already did, but they need more than one, so get here quick. Kakashi PS, bring me an Icha. I forgot it. Both had been surprised at the beginning of the letter, and Sakura had actually smiled a little when she read the part about her mom defending her. But when they got to the PS, Naruto's face faltered while Sakura got a pissed expression her face. That damn Ero-sensei. When I get to him after the meeting, she then started to mumble certain words loud enough to hear, like dead, fire, and pervy books. Naruto shuddered before he picked up the other note which had the council seal on it. He ripped off the note, and the scroll glowed like last time before it dissipated and nothing appeared. Naruto went wide-eyed while Sakura looked confused. What? There's nothing on it. That's weird, she shrugged before she walked off the bridge back onto land. Well, I guess we should get going. You coming, Naruto? She looked back at Naruto, who was still wide-eyed at the note. He shook his head before he looked at Sakura quickly. Oh yeah. You go on ahead, I'll catch up, Naruto said. Sakura nodded before she walked off. After seeing she was gone, he looked back at the note, some worry on his face. The reason for this was that while it appeared that nothing appeared to Sakura, a full letter had appeared to Naruto. The contents of the letter left Naruto on edge. Naruto Uzumaki, due to recent events that unfolded, the council has called the remaining Team 7, Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki, forth to a meeting before the council of the village hidden in the leaves. The main purpose of this letter, however, is involving you, Naruto Uzumaki. A special seal within the paper makes it so only you can read this. According to outside resources, it has come to the attention of the council that you, Naruto Uzumaki, have hidden from the council of the Leaf Village a bloodline, which could have been useful to the people of the village in the past. It also comes to our attention that you have information regarding that of our 4th Hokage and the extent of his abilities, which are hidden from the public eye, shinobi ranks, and the opposing forces of this village. It is so that your appearance before the council is mandatory, and failure to do so will result in a charge of treason and insubordination. Homura Mitokado, Kaharu Utatane, Danzo Council Elders of Konohagakure. This is not good, GLaDOS said in his head. Naruto nodded as he folded the note and put it in his pocket. Yeah. How did they even find out? Gigi said he keep it a secret, Naruto said, clearly confused and worried. Don't worry about that now. We'll think of something when we get there, she said. Naruto agreed inwardly before racing forward, trying to catch up to Sakura. By the time he reached her again after a few minutes, GLaDOS was speaking to him again. Hold on. You said Gigi. I thought you said you hadn't forgiven him. After she said this, Naruto got a grin on his outer face which Sakura didn't notice. Oh yeah. I thought over it again, and I guess Gigi did have a point about hiding it from me and not telling me. There's also the fact if I had known about my heritage early, I'd be like Sasuke. But, his grin grew. He doesn't need to know that for now. He heard a chuckle in his mind, before he brought his attention back to walking. About 20 minutes later, both had arrived outside the council room doors. They could hear a large amount of yelling inside, and they swore they heard a familiar voice yelling. An Anbu was on guard outside the doors, and when he saw them, he nodded to them before he motioned for them to wait and entered the council room. It was about a minute before the door opened again and the Anbu came back out, looking at the two. The council will see you now, he said. Naruto and Sakura looked at each other, before they looked back at the Anbu and nodded. They walked past the doors, and heard them shut behind them. Looking forward, both observed the room as they walked in. The room was a large, round one, separated into 3 sections. On the left side of the room was the shinobi section, where the current clan heads sat. This included the Hyuga, Inazaka, Akamichi, Nara, Yamanaka, Sarutobi and Aburame clans. One seat was empty, which signified the Uchiha clan, which had been massacred years ago. The only Uchihas left were Sasuke and Itachi, but Itachi was a missing nin for before reasons, and Sasuke was too young. On the right side of the room was where the civilian council sat. This side included those who were some of the highest business owners, bankers, and traders in the village. There were 8 of them to match the size of the shinobi council, but since the Uchiha incident, the one member hadn't been taken off. One of the most noticeable council members was a woman in her late 30s to early 40s with pink hair. Obviously Sakura's mother, and she was glaring at someone at the center of the room. At the back of the room, facing the door, was where the Hokage and the elders sat. The Hokage sat in the front seat, while his 2 advisors, Kaharu Utatane and Homura Mitokado, sat on the left and right of him. A few feet behind the Hokage, leaning against the wall on a cane, was a man who looked like a mummy. This was Danzo, another one of the Hokage's old teammates, and advisor, and a warhawk. In the middle of the room stood 3 people. One was Sasuke, who had an extremely pissed and irritated look on his face since he was under heavy guard by the 2 people watching him. The other 2 people who were watching him were Kakashi and the Dragon Mask Anbu from before. Hearing the door close, all eyes in the room were now at the door, and there were numerous reactions. The shinobi side and some of the civilian council were indifferent, while the Hokage and Kakashi were looking at the 2 of them with sad, apologetic looks. The others in the civilian council were giving Naruto glares, while Sakura's mother was ignoring Naruto and looking at Sakura with worry. The elders and Danzo were ignoring everyone else, staring directly at Naruto with interest. Sasuke, seeing his teammates, seemed to get madder as his pissed expression turned into fury. "What are those 2 pieces of trash doing here?" he yelled, forgetting where he was. The shinobi side, Hokage and Kakashi sent him angry glares, but he didn't notice. Before the Hokage could say anything, however, he was interrupted by the council Haruno woman. "You'll watch your mouth, Uchiha. You'll stand before the highest members of the village, and you will hold your tongue," she yelled at him. Most of the people covered their ears, while some actually toned it out. Sasuke was the worst, as he was currently on the ground, clutching his ears. Most in the room instantly thought, "That's what you get." "While you are correct, council member Haruno," the Hokage said, rubbing his left ear. "Please lower your voice. None of us wish to become deaf today." She wondered what they were talking about, until she quickly understood and went red, sitting down. The Hokage then looked at the recovering Sasuke. "As for you, Sasuke Uchiha, you will watch your tone as well. Those 2 are your teammates, and you will treat them nicely. Your actions today will determine if you will go on trial or not." When he heard the word trial, Sasuke looked at the Hokage quickly. "Trial? What are you taking about, you old man? I'm an Uchiha elite. I didn't do anything wrong," he said stubbornly. Some looks of disbelief were sent at him, while some actually thought, "Is he really that ignorant?" "That's where you're wrong, Uchiha," a voice said. People turned their heads and saw it was Shikaku Nara who had spoken while half asleep. "You treated your team like trash, pretty much used them as cannon fodder, and expected everything on a silver platter because of your name. You've treated this village like the gum on your shoe, all to kill your brother." Sasuke scoffed, thinking he was still in control. "Please. I can do whatever I want, like I care about the villagers. They're just the filthy peasants under me I use to get what I want. Itachi told me to embrace hate to kill him, and I'll use whatever and whoever's in my way to do that." After he said this, the room seemed to freeze. The civilian council were completely speechless. Sasuke had a smug grin on his face like he'd just won. "This whole village sees me as the last honorable Uchiha. You do anything to me, they'll practically call for you to be kicked out of office. You can't do anything." There was a silence in the room, no one speaking. Sasuke was still grinning, and was ready to say something, but was interrupted. "I have a suggestion, Sarutobi." All eyes turned to the voice. Danzo was off the wall, now walking to the Hokage's chair. The Hokage, now identified as Sarutobi as well, looked at Danzo, showing he had his attention. "It's obvious to everyone that the Uchiha is unpredictable at the moment. Untrustworthy even. He's admitted to not even caring for this village, and its protection is the utmost importance. If he's too obsessed with Itachi, which is obvious, then he'll become a threat to those around him. I would like to put forward a vote to have him removed from the shinobi program, and have him put under heavy watch until a time where he is more stable. The Hokage went wide-eyed. He seemed to think for a second, before his eyes narrowed and he gave a nod. He turned back to the rest of the council. A proposal has been brought before the council. Do all agree with the proposal? He asked the council members. Both sides took a moment to look at each other, before they looked back at the Hokage. Heishi Hyuga and the older Haruno stood up, representing their sides. The Shinobi Council agrees with the proposal. Everyone looked at the Haruno councilwoman now, expecting an answer. Sasuke's grin turned into a smirk. This is too easy. Sakura's probably forgiven me already, and her stupid mother will be the same. A piece of cake. He thought. That thought changed, however, when he heard her speak, and he went into shock. The Civilian Council agrees with the proposal as well. The adult Haruno said. Sasuke's Uchiha pride wavered, him going into shock. He was stuck in that shock as the Hokage spoke again. Very well. Are there any opposed to this decision? There were none. He nodded as he snapped his fingers, making 4 Anbu appear. Sasuke Uchiha. For the interests and safety of this village, you are immediately ripped from the shinobi ranks, and put under Anbu watch until a time this village can trust you again. Anbu, take him away. The Anbu quickly moved down, taking Sasuke out of the other Anbus and Kakashi's grip. As they dragged him toward the door, Sasuke got out of his state of shock, and looked at the council frantically. Wait. You can't do this to me. I'm an Uchiha. He felt an involuntary shiver as the Hokage stared him down. Maybe so. And I'm a Sarutobi. Your name is simply that. A name. Get him out of my sight. As he was being pulled closer to the door, he was pulled past Naruto and Sakura. He ignored Sakura, and felt anger flow through him as he glared at Naruto. This is your fault, Dobi. You did this to me, and I'll get my revenge, he growled out, before he was pulled completely out. Naruto and Sakura watched him leave, before Naruto sighed. No, Sasuke, you did this to yourself. Both then looked ahead, and walked into the center of the council room. So, I guess you won't need those testimonies? He asked. Everyone looked at the two, before a civilian council member snapped. Oh yes. That was the reason we called you down here. Naruto and a majority of the room's sweat dropped. You actually forgot about us. Wow, Naruto said. He looked over the council room. All of the Shinobi Council, Hokage, and a new portion of the Civilian Council, along with Sakura's mom, were looking at him with some combination of confusion, neutrality, and/or acknowledgement. A few members of the Civilian Council were still glaring at Naruto, but with a lesser intensity. Anyway, since you don't need us, guess I'll be going. See ya. He quickly turned around and was ready to head out the door, but was stopped when the one known as Danzo said, "Wait one moment, Uzumaki." Naruto stiffened, before he turned back around with slight dread. Yes? He asked. Danzo looked at Naruto before he got from behind the elder Hokage desk and walked in front of it. While the situation with the Uchiha is over and done with for the moment, there is still the second matter about the other scroll you received. Danzo said. The attention of everyone was now on Naruto. Second scroll. What is this about, Danzo? The Hokage asked, clearly confused. Danzo nodded, and a small notepad was thrown at him from the shadows, him quickly catching it. He flipped the cover open, before addressing the room. It has come to the attention of the council, that you have hidden something from the village Uzumaki. 2 things actually. Danzo looked at the notepad. These 2 things include serious issues which concerns the elders. You not only have withheld information of a bloodline in your possession, but also S-rank information about the abilities of the Yondaime Hokage, specifically his Horiashin. He said, answering the question. The room's reaction quickly changed. The Shinobi Council was looking at Naruto with surprise, the Civilian Council with shock, and Sakura a combo of both. The elders were neutral, while Kakashi and the Hokage were slightly sweating. No, that's impossible. How does he know this? It's impossible for him to know, unless, the Hokage thought, before he realized the answer. Root Anbu. He must have been in such surprise yesterday he didn't notice. As for Naruto, he was wide-eyed, while sweating profusely. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. This is so bad. What do we do? What do I do? He thought frantically. GLaDOS seemed to be in the same surprise in his mind, as she was silent. After a few minutes in his head, which was a few seconds on the outside, GLaDOS spoke to him slowly. Well, I didn't expect that. That surprise actually made me go into sensory overload. Took me a moment, but I'm good. Now. Breathe and relax. A step at a time. He inhaled slowly, and then exhaled the same. After a minute, he looked back at the council, slightly nervous. Well, there are reasons for that actually, Naruto said hesitantly. Danzo and the room looked expectantly at him. Danzo seemed relaxed about it, while the rest of the room was on edge. So, what are they? Having knowledge of S-rank information without permission is a count of treason, Uzumaki. Danzo said. Naruto breathed Agai before he spoke hesitantly. Well, for the second one, and you might not believe me on this, but the reason I know is because I may be his son, he said, hand behind his head. There was a minute of silence, then all hell broke loose. Nanny. The whole room yelled, except Kakashi, the Hokage and Danzo. Danzo had a small smile that no one noticed. But that's impossible. The Yondaime never had a son, a civilian shouted, obviously not buying it. Actually, he did. Everyone looked at the Hokage, who was now standing up. 13 years ago actually, on the day of the Kyuubi attack. The birth was viewed by multiple doctors, me, along with Jiraiya and Tsunade of the Sannin. A blood test and testimony from the hospital can be given if necessary. Hold on. If it is true, why lie to the village and as Hokage-sama? Shibi Aburame asked. The Hokage started to speak again, now looking at the civilian council. It was the Yondaime's last wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero. The problem, however, was that Iwa and Kumo had grudges against the Yondaime, and would do anything to get revenge, even against his own son. So I hid his heritage, hoping it would protect him. But that did others from hurting him. He was now staring the civilian council down. A lot of them were looking down in shame, and those that had been glaring at Naruto were still in their shock. The shinobi council nodded at this. Danzo cleared his throat, and gained the attention of the room again. While it explains knowing the Yondaime, and a blood test will be asked for later, it still does not explain the knowing of the Hiraishin and the bloodline. He said. Naruto sighed before getting a split-second glaze in his eyes which disappeared instantly. Only Kakashi and the Hokage saw this. About the Hiraishin, when I had the accident with the Forbidden Scroll, I looked a little too far and saw it. It looked pretty cool, so I just read it. I had no idea who made it until I read the bottom where it said the Yondaime's name. Pretty sure I almost had a heart attack when I saw that. Naruto said, slightly laughing. This was a complete lie, of course, as it was explained yesterday by GLaDOS on the mountain. But the rest of the council seemed to accept it, so they motioned for him to continue. As for the bloodline, well, I think I can only really explain that if I give an example. You mind? Naruto asked. The room went wide-eyed, except for the three. Danzo looked back at Koharu and Homura, who gave quick nods for people their age. Danzo looked back at Naruto. If you really can explain it, sure, Danzo said before he walked back behind the desk. Naruto stepped forward slightly so he was a few feet from Sakura. He stood for a moment, before everyone noticed his eyes go from blue to a glowing yellow in the form of a circle made of triangles. He pointed at a wall on the other side of the room, and snapped. A quick blue stream of short particles flew from his fingers and hit the wall, turning into a human-sized, glowing oval that took up a large portion of the wall. Now everyone was interested, leaning in their seats. Naruto then pointed at the ceiling with his other hand and snapped again. This time an orange ray of particles flew before hitting the ceiling and making an orange oval. As soon as it hit, however, both ovals seemed to blink, before they showed different images of the room. The blue one showed a top angle of the room, while the orange one showed a side view of the room from the wall the blue oval was on. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto quickly ran at the blue one on the wall, running through it. Before he fell out of the orange on the ceiling, he did a quick flip before landing on the ground on his feet. He slowly stood up, raising his head. He almost laughed when he saw the reactions on everyone's faces, and could hear GLaDOS laugh in his head. The shinobi's side had their jaws open, shock visible even on the Aburame clan head. The civilian side had their jaws on the floor, and were bug-eyed. The two elders had a look in their eyes Naruto didn't recognize, and Sakura's eyes were plain white circles. Kakashi, the Hokage, and Danzo were smiling. Now I have a feeling I'm about to get bombarded with questions. He was right as he saw a few hands go up before being quickly put down. But let me give an explanation. Naruto then quickly pointed both his fingers at the floor and snapped, making both ovals disappear and reappear on the floor next to each other. He pulled a shuriken out of his pouch, before holding above the blue portal and dropping it. As it fell through the blue portal, it immediately flew upward out of the orange portal. It rose for a few moments before it fell back into the orange, and did the exact same thing with the blue portal. With everyone watching Naruto looked at them all. This is what is called a portal. There's some kind of special chakra in my body that lets us make these, so I'll give a short explanation of what they do. A portal pretty much is instant travel. You put one portal here and another there, and then when you walk through it, you appear through the other one. Both are always linked, so no matter how far apart they are, they'll always connect with each other. From what I guess, I would think the Yondaime couldn't use it right, and used his special kunai things to make a portal. So that's what makes it my bloodline. Any questions? He finished, plucking the kunai out of its back and forth free fall. There was a moment of silence, before a hand rose in the shinobi section. Yeah? He asked, pointing to the owner of the hand, Inoichi Yamanaka. How long have you known about it? Inoichi asked. Naruto thought about it before he spoke. Actually, I didn't know about it until our last mission, and it was totally on accident. When we got back yesterday, I just spent the rest of the day figuring out what it fully did. He explained again, passing off another lie which was accepted. So any other questions? Thankfully there weren't any, so he looked back at Danzo. Are we done now? Danzo gave nod. Good. The council is now dismissed. Councilwoman Haruno, please escort your daughter out of here while I talk with Elder Danzo and Naruto Uzumaki. The council nodded before standing and filing out. Sakura's mother quickly walked over to Sakura, checking her for any injuries. Seeing none, she gently led Sakura out, who was still in a daze. After they left, the doors closed. It was now Danzo, the Hokage, Kakashi, and Naruto in the room. Now Danzo, the Hokage said, getting into his serious mode. How did you find out about that classified information? It was only discovered yesterday, and was supposed to say a secret between me, Naruto and his sensei. Another question is why? Why reveal it, and why get rid of the Uchiha kid? Danzo stood, before he looked at the wall, and an Anbu with a blank mask walked in from the wall. He looked no older than Naruto. Well, Sarutobi, Danzo said, pointing to the root Anbu behind him. The information was brought to me yesterday by one of my best agents. From it, I learned everything from your private conversation. Your abilities, your heritage, your second tenant. Naruto flinched, and could hear GLaDOS muttering numerous ones and zeros. But I do not wish to harm or blackmail in any way. This got looks of confusion. While I won't openly admit I did want the Yondaime's position, I will openly admit he was a good leader. He did help these people, and I'm interested in this village's best interests, including its protection. A bloodline like what the young Uzumaki has is something that would make us a valuable ally, and some faith for this village. Plus, the revealing of the information was bound to happen anyway. Better early now by us than later by the enemy. Kakashi and the Hokage nodded at the last part. It did make sense. Before he could say any more, he was interrupted by Naruto, as expected. Wait a minute. Even if you know all this stuff, why not give it away? Or use me as a weapon or something? He asked. Danzo stared at Naruto, before he answered in a calm voice. As I said, Uzumaki, I do this for the best interests of the village. It's better you want to help willingly than force you into it and make you hate us. As for the Uchiha brat, he is too arrogant and dangerous. Best interests for everyone. He would also disgrace this village if we actually let him into the Chunin Exams. Naruto blinked. Chunin Exams? What are those? Danzo wasn't surprised by the question. Kakashi read his mind somehow, as he answered for him. Well, Naruto. Chunin Exams are special exams held in each of the hidden villages every 6 months or so. With numerous judges, watchers, and political figures attending, they decide if you're good enough to be promoted to Chunin rank. It's like a promotion test and entertainment for the villages. I actually was going to give you guys the forms today, but a certain someone happened. No one needed an explanation for that. Oh, I get it. Naruto said. Then he thought of something. Hey Kakashi-sensei. If what you said about genin teams is true, doesn't that mean we'd have to enter as a team? Yes, Naruto. Why do you ask? Kakashi asked. Then he realized what he just said. Oh. Yeah. This sucks. With Sasuke gone, how are me and Sakura gonna sign up? Naruto said dejectedly. Kakashi and the Hokage looked at him sadly, while Danzo thought. What about a deal? The sulking Naruto looked at Danzo with confusion, while Kakashi and the Hokage looked with alert. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Danzo limped over to Naruto on his cane, and looked down at him. With Sarutobi's permission, I could get you an extra teammate for the exams. He's one of the best young shinobi in the village. Danzo said. Naruto perked up, but before he could say anything, the Hokage interrupted him while looking sharply at Danzo. What's the catch? He asked suspiciously. Danzo gave a small nod while still looking at Naruto. Good of you to mention. The catch that you say is he'll need to consider it a favor. I'll scratch his back, but but he'll have to scratch mine in the future. Nothing too bad, I assure you. Kakashi and the Hokage looked at each other. The Hokage seemed hesitant, but then he sighed and looked at Naruto. It's your decision, Naruto, he said. Naruto looked at the Hokage, before he looked at Danzo, and gave small smile while putting out his hand. Deal. Naruto said. Danzo nodded before he reached for the hand and shook it firmly. After they let go, Naruto asked Danzo a question. So, when do I meet my new teammate? Danzo gave a very small smile, small being the key word, and pointed at the root behind him. You're looking at him. The root Anbu reached up and pulled off the blank mask, revealing a young man around 13 or 14 with pale skin, black eyes and black hair. He gave a small smile, which seemed to be fake. Hello. My name is Sai. It will be nice working with you and your team in the exams, you ramen dumpster asterisk. Naruto gave a wary smile. It's nice to meet you. As he was saying this, he stopped when Sai's sentence clicked in his head. Hey. WHO, are you calling a RAMN dumpster? It's just good, that's all. He snarled at Sai, his head now having numerous tick marks. Sai continued his fake smile as he headed for the door. Whatever you say. Just keep eating until the day you explode, fat boy. With that, Sai left the council room. Naruto's face contorted into anger, before he quickly ran out the door after him. Fat, I'll get you for that. The running footsteps could be heard for a moment, before they disappeared, indicating they left the building. After a moment, the Hokage simply shook his head. Well, that's Naruto for you, he said. He then looked at Danzo. Now Danzo, I understand your interest for this village and its people. But Naruto is still my adopted grandson. If anything happens to him and it was your fault. Danzo held up his hands. Like when you hold them up and go, whoa whoa whoa. I understand completely, Sarutobi. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to attend to. He nodded to both of them, before he walked out of the room. After he left, Kakashi sighed and looked at the Hokage. Hokage-sama, do you think this was a good idea? He asked. The Hokage was still, then he spoke while looking at the door. I don't know, Kakashi, I don't know. It was a few days after the meeting that Naruto was walking through the street. He had utterly failed at catching Sai, running out of breath right before he caught. This made Sai make another fat joke at his expense in his unemotional voice, and GLaDOS simply laughed in his mind. Over the last couple days, Naruto had been training with the little shinobi skills he had, and his bloodline abilities. Since he didn't know when the exams were, he had asked GLaDOS, who had no idea since she had been unactivated in his head for so many years. After that, Naruto simply sighed and went back to training. His schedule was pretty much breakfast, training, lunch, study, sleep and then portal testing in the mind center. Now he was walking down the street, his eyes extremely glazed since he was talking to GLaDOS. So, I get training with the portals, but why learn physics? If GLaDOS was there in person, she would have head slapped him. Because the whole point of learning it is that physics have everything to do with portals. Many of the tests done in the enrichment center required some learning of physics so test subjects didn't get confused and hyperventilate. That did however happen numerous times since no one read the waivers, and so that why, before she finished her sentence, she cut herself off. Naruto stopped, confused. GLaDOS, you okay? He thought. There was still silence. He was about to talk again, but was stopped when she finally spoke. Oh. My. God. Naruto, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sure my programming says rocks are not square with eye holes. Look behind you. He did slowly, and sweat dropped at what he saw. There, right behind him, was a 100% square box covered in cliff camouflage with eye holes in the front. Heavy breathing was coming out from under it. He looked at the box for a minute, before he sighed. Alright guys, come out, because I'm pretty sure rocks aren't square. He yelled the last part. The box remained still for a second, until it began to shake incredibly, before it promptly exploded in a big ball of smoke. 3 coughs could be heard from it as the smoke dissipated. It revealed 3 kids. One with high orange hair, one with glasses and a runny nose, and one with black hair and goggles. After their coughing fit, the black-haired one looked up at Naruto with a grin. Nice going, boss. You easily saw through our disguise. You really are my idol if you are see through something as devious as that. The black-haired one said, going into a pose. Meanwhile, GLaDOS was oil-dropping asterisk 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 in Naruto's head. Good God. What are those things? They're worse than the co-op bots, she said. Naruto gave her a mind glare. Relax, GLaDOS. They're just some kids in the Academy I made friends with. The orange-haired one is Moegi. The one his glasses is Udon, and the goggle one is Konohamaru. He's Gigi's real grandson, and wants to be Hokage like me. They're pretty nice when you hang with them for a while. That's the Hokage's grandson. If he wants to be Hokage, I hope I actually go to android hell before that happens. GLaDOS. He mentally berated. He swore she simply rolled her optic. He then turned his attention back to the group of children now identified. Yeah, I'm just that awesome. I'd use less smoke powder though. Anyway, you guys need anything? He asked them. They all smiled at him before Udon spoke. Sniff, you said you'd play ninja with us today. Naruto looked at them, before he got a contemplative look on his face. Oh yeah, I did say that, Naruto said. Before anyone could say something though, they all heard someone shout, Naruto. They all turned and saw Sakura running towards them. After a few seconds, she finally got to them. Hey Sakura-chan. What's up? Naruto said casually. Sakura looked at him like he was weird for a second, but shook it off and just looked at him with curiosity. Nothing much, I guess. Where have you been, Naruto? I've been looking for you ever since the council meeting. And what are you doing with these kids? She asked. Before Naruto could answer, he was interrupted by Konohamaru. Boss promised he'd play ninja with us today. You want to join us? You could be the damsel in distress, he said excitedly. Sakura looked at him for a second, before she looked at Naruto again. A ninja playing ninja? She asked, clearly confused. I'll agree with her on that. Not only does it sound ridiculous, but it gets in the way of important matters, like testing. Naruto chose to ignore this statement. It's something I promised them I'd do if they didn't bug me about the meeting. Konohamaru asked Hokage-sama about 1,000,000 times before he came to me. Sakura thought about it for a second before she nodded. Her mother had explained to her that council matters stayed in the council room. As Konohamaru watched them talk, his eyes got wide as he got an idea. Hey boss. Naruto looked at him. I was wondering, is she your woman? Naruto and Sakura looked at him, before Sakura looked surprised and Naruto started shaking his head frantically. No. We're just teammates, Konohamaru. Konohamaru heard him say this before he looked at Sakura and got a look of perplexion. Guess you're right about that, boss. I see why too. Her forehead is huge. Naruto went wide-eyed as he turned his head to Sakura slowly, stepping very far away. Konohamaru then felt a horrible aura surround him. He looked at the source of it, and felt a shiver go up his spine at the evil look Sakura had on her face. My forehead, she growled out as she walked to him slowly, cracking her knuckles. Here Konohamaru did what his instincts told him to. He turned around and bolted around a corner, going into an alley lined with a wooden fence. She was about to go after him, but they all heard something crash, and a voice crying out in fear and frustration. Hey! Put me down! Konohamaru's voice. The four of them bolted around the corner and came across the noise. Konohamaru was being held up by his scarf by a tall teenager wearing a full black bodysuit with cat-like ears. The most distinct features were the big bundle on his back and the makeup on his face. Behind him was a girl with blonde hair pulled into 4 ponytails. She was wearing some kind of light purple dress that went off the shoulder with mesh armor underneath. Around her waist was a red sash. On her back was a giant fan. You think you can run into random people and get away with it, brat? I'm gonna have to teach you some manners. The teenager said, tightening his grip on Konohamaru's scarf. Kankuro, we don't have time for this. He'll be here soon, and we'll be in trouble if he catches you. The female said to the male now addressed as Kankuro. Don't worry, Tamari. This will be over in a second, Kankuro said to the identified Tamari as he pulled his fist back. Hey, let him go, a voice said. The two looked up from Konohamaru to see Naruto, Sakura and Konohamaru's 2 friends behind them. Kankuro gave a smirk. What are you gonna do about it, shorty? He said. Naruto looked hard at Kankuro. Then he seemed suddenly relaxed, getting an interest in his nails. I don't know really, but I do know the Hokage and a lot of the ninja in this village would beat you down since that is the Hokage's grandson. Naruto said casually like it didn't matter. Kankuro paled considerably, before letting go of Konohamaru and backing up slightly. Konohamaru quickly got up and ran over to Naruto, saying a very quick but grateful thank you before he and his friends ran off. Naruto looked back at Kankuro and saw he had a pissed expression. He may be gone, but you're gonna pay for that, he said, pulling the bundle off his back. Tamari got a worried look. Kankuro. Not now, he'll be here any minute. Kankuro got a cocky smirk as he grabbed one of the wraps on the bundle. Please. This will be over before he gets here. As he was ready to pull off a wrap, he heard a voice that made him freeze. What, brother? All eyes turned to the voice, and saw it was a teenager standing on the underside of a branch. He had red hair and dark black rings around his eyes. He wore a large combination of mesh armor and leather, a large white sash holding a large gourd on his back. He had a red kanji on his forehead. "You're a disgrace to our family, Kankuro," he said, jumping from the tree and making his way over to his family. Kankuro gulped as he put the bundle back on his back. "Gee Gaara, I can explain." Before he could finish, the identified Gaara simply gave him a blank look. "Shut up now or I'll kill you." The voice was said with no emotion, but also seemed to be laced with much threat and hatred. Temari and Kankuro flinched, with Kankuro nodding shakily before backing up. Gaara gave them one last look before he turned his attention to Sakura and Naruto. Sakura was shivering, yet Naruto was looking Gaara down. Gaara went up to Naruto and looked him straight in the eyes. "What is your name?" Gaara asked. Naruto stayed silent for a moment before he said, "Naruto Uzumaki." Gaara nodded before he turned back to his siblings. "I look forward to fighting you in the Chunin Exams, Naruto Uzumaki." Gaara walked away from the two, looking at Temari and Kankuro. "Kankuro, Temari. We're leaving." Both nodded quickly, before they all shunshined away in a flash of sand. After they left, Sakura leaned against the fence, breathing heavily. "Holy crap. That feeling when he spoke. It was insane," she said, obviously terrified. Before Naruto could say anything, a voice spoke up. "Well, that was interesting." Both looked to the tree and saw Sai sitting on the top branch, holding a notepad and brush. Naruto recognized him, while Sakura just gave a look of confusion. "Who are you?" she asked. Naruto looked at her confused before he snapped his fingers in realization. "Oh yeah. You two don't know each other, Sakura. This is Sai. He's our new teammate since Sasuke is gone. That mummy-looking elder got permission from Hokage-sama to let him join us," he explained. Sakura listened to him, before looking back at Sai, who had jumped out of the tree. "Oh. Well, it's nice to meet you, Sai," Sakura said, giving him a smile. Sai, who didn't get normal person greetings, gave one of his fake smiles. "It's nice to meet you, Miss Ugly," he said, his small smile on his face. Sakura kept his smile on her face, and Naruto swore he saw a small tick mark appear on her head. They two looked at each other for a minute. Bam! Before Sakura punched him halfway across the alley, and it was a long alley. "What the hell? Calling me ugly? You're gonna get yours, Baka," she yelled, running forward as she began to beat the crap out of Sai. Naruto's sweat dropped at this, with GLaDOS sighing. "Things will get interesting, won't they?" she asked him mentally. Naruto nodded since no one was paying attention. "Oh yeah," he said out loud, walking forward to help Sai. Later, they would reach the training field with an injured Sai, and Kakashi would appear to give them sheets for the Chunin exams. After filling them out, they proceeded towards the academy, where they were being held, not realizing their future was about to change greatly for science. It was a 20-minute walk before the new Team 7 arrived at the academy. Taking a look at it, Naruto breathed deeply before looking at them. "So, this is it, the Chunin exams. You guys ready for this?" he asked, turning his head in their directions. In response to this, Sai, whose head was still covered in some bandages, gave one of his fake smiles as he looked in Naruto's direction. "Of course we are dumpster. We must go inside and do this test rather than sit around and eat nothing but fat all day," Sai said with his smile before walking towards the academy. At this, Naruto's eye was twitching, and he was getting ready to strangle Sai if it wasn't for self-control stopping him. Interesting. I was just going through your mind when I saw something. It would seem his words affect your mental stability. You just lost 2 brain cells from that," GLaDOS said to him mentally, making him twitch some more. "You are not helping," he thought to her, before he noticed Sakura, whose head was down. Sakura? Are you okay?" he asked. He noticed her start to shake, slightly worried she would start to cry again. "So, this is really it. The Chunin exams. Do you really think we're ready for this, Naruto?" she asked, her voice surprisingly quiet for her usually loud attitude. Naruto was a little surprised at this before he spoke again. "Of course we are, Sakura. We're a team, and we'll beat this thing no problem, and even if we don't, there's always the next one, right?" he said in as close to a comforting tone that he could. He'd never really had to deal with something like this before. It seemed to do the trick, however, since her shaking started to slow down until it wasn't present anymore. He slowly lifted her head, before revealing her, giving him a small smile. "You're right. We can do this. Thanks, Naruto," she said in a confident tone. Quickly smiling back, He gave a nod before they both looked forward and entered the academy. As they passed the pillars and finally entered the large, open-spaced lobby, they found Sai standing completely still with what appeared to be a small perplexing look. Sai? What are you doing? Naruto asked him, clearly confused. There was no response, as Sai simply tilted his head and continued to stare off. It was after a minute that they noticed he was staring in a general direction, and so they looked in the direction that he was. They immediately regretted it, with the both of them getting looks of horror. Even GLaDOS, who was only visible to Naruto in his head, recoiled her chassis with haste, trying to hide herself in one of the corners of the room. Her optic was wide as it could go as it stared at the monitor in the chamber, looking what Naruto was seeing. Oh my god, what is that thing? She practically shouted as she continued to stare at the thing. GLaDOS' point of view, the thing she was looking at was a person. No, that description is too inaccurate. The thing was a spawn of the most revolting being on the planet, and then shaped to look like a human. It was at an average height, going slightly taller than Naruto. That was where any human-like relations ended. It wore a skin-tight green jumpsuit, had a blue leaf headband wrapped around its waist, and had what appeared to be dark orange leg warmers on its lower legs. Wrapped around the fists of it were long white bandages, slightly torn but looking new. The thing itself looked horrendous. It had a jet black bowl-cut hairstyle on its head, with the light shining off of it like a mirror. On its face were two black caterpillars above its eyes, which were completely round and the size of hockey pucks on the human drug called steroids. The mouth itself, oh god, the mouth, was pointed slightly upwards like a frog's. The nose was small, almost like it wasn't even there. And what made it worse was that the monster was in a horrifying pose. There was only one thing going through my primary processing unit as I tried to move my chassis into the wall so I didn't have to stare at that thing any longer. May the android gods help us. Normal point of view. Naruto, Sakura and Sai were still staring at the jumpsuit teenager before them, and were still staring when he finally noticed Naruto and Sai. Yosh. Greetings to you fellow genin of the leaf. Are you here to partake in these genin exams? He asked, getting out of his pose and looking at them. It was Naruto who quickly got out of his expression, looking at Lee with a slightly embarrassed face. Yeah. We were coming in to join them when we got distracted, he said hesitantly, trying not to look at the jumpsuit. He failed however, because now he was stuck looking at his eyebrows. Luckily, the team didn't notice as he raised a tightened fist and gave another, yosh. Excellent. More people like myself to fully show their flames of youth. The rooms for the exams are down the hall up there, the teen said loudly, pointing his arm at the stairs on the left of the room. As he went to say more, he noticed Sakura, who had attempted to hide behind Naruto and Sai. The reaction was something they did not expect, since when he saw her, he grinned and gave a thumbs up to her. My goodness! Such a youthful and beautiful teammate of yours. May I please inquire your name? He asked. Sakura flinched slightly before peering her head out from behind her teammates and stuttering, Sakura Haruno. His grin got even bigger and he changed the thumbs up into another tightened fist. Sakura. A beautiful name for a beautiful kunoichi. Would you be my girlfriend? I protect you with my life? He exclaimed cheerfully, winking at her. The result was Sakura jumping out from her cover in fright and looking at him in even more horror. What? No way! She exclaimed, anime tears streaming down her face as she shook her head back and forth in frantic movement. The answer stopped his expression of cheer for a moment, before it was replaced with a huge smile. That is all right. Even if you say no, I will still protect you, and then one day, you will accept my love and flames of youth. But for now, please accept this token of my appreciation for you. With that, he quickly winked at her and blew her a kiss, the result being a large floating heart in her direction. Ah! No, she screamed hysterically, dodging the heart in a frantic motion. Seeing this, Lee gave a grin. It missed. Don't worry dear Sakura, there are more for you to express our youth, he exclaimed, before sending even more hearts her way. As they all floated to her, she frantically dodged around, almost like she was dancing. She wasn't however, because she was trying to avoid all these hearts. Naruto was jaw-dropping at this, with Sai still looking at Lee curiously. It was 5 minutes later that the hearts had now disappeared completely, with a dead tired Sakura standing a few feet from the team. Trying to breathe, she slowly looked over at her teammates before getting an angry look, marching over and punching Naruto in the head. He flew across the room, landing a few feet from Lee. Ignoring her heavy breathing, she marched over to Naruto and began to shake him violently. Naruto, you baka! Why didn't you help me? I was dodging those the entire time and you didn't even try to help? What is wrong with you? She screamed at him, his heading snapping back and forth as she shook him. The grin on Lee's face disappeared, and he blinked his bug-eyed eyes before speaking again. Naruto, you're Naruto, Uzumaki? He asked in surprise. The fighting duo stopped when they heard that, with a red-faced Sakura and swirly-eyed Naruto looking at Lee in confusion. Yeah? Naruto slurred out, still half-conscious from his near-death experience. The answer seemed to spark something in Lee, for when he said that, his confused expression turned into a determined look, along with him getting into a fighting stance. Then I challenge you to a duel of testing abilities against I, the handsome devil of the leaf, he said in a slightly serious tone. Naruto said in confusion, lifting an eyebrow. It is simple, my orange friend. I have heard that you are a hard-working genin like me, and so challenge you to test your abilities against mine, he said in a challenging tone, unrolling the bandages on his arms. To prove myself against you, I will use only one move to best you in combat. He then got into a more battle-ready stance, getting ready to attack. Before he could, however, the bandages that were unrolled were pinned to the ground by pinwheels, stopping him from moving. Wait, pinwheels? The team thought, before looking in the direction of the thrown pinwheels. And immediately wished they hadn't. As they looked at the thing, Sai continued to look on in curiosity, while Naruto and Sakura paled with horror-stricken faces. Even GLaDOS, who had slightly pulled herself from Naruto's mind chamber wall, had recoiled faster than before, hitting the wall and making it shake. Oh my god, they're making a clone army. Run, she screamed in his head, Naruto hearing it clearly. What was before them was possibly worse than Lee. It was a grown man with the same bowl-cut hair and Lee, with eyebrows that looked even bigger than Lee's. His face was more shaped than Lee's and he seemed more muscular and older. He also wore the same hideous green jumpsuit as Lee, had his headband around his waist, and wore the same orange leg warmers. The only differences between the two were that the man had smaller eyes, was older, and wore a Jonin vest over the jumpsuit. The man himself was standing on a large turtle that had a leaf headband around its neck. Hello youthful people. How y'all doing everybody? Life treating you well? The man shouted from the top of the turtle, standing in a weird pose where his arm was raised and two fingers surrounded his eye upside down. Sakura and Naruto could barely look at the man, trying to stay conscious. Size was still the same, looking at Lee and the man in wonder. Now then, it is the proper time in this spring of youth, the man started to say, but stopped himself as he quickly leapt over to where Lee was and delivered a swift punch to his face. To exact punishment, he yelled, watching as Lee flew across the room. Naruto and Sakura yelled, the shock on their faces evident, while Sai simply tilted his head even more. The man crossed his arms before looking at the recovering Lee. Now Lee, you know that technique is strictly forbidden. If you had done it, horrible things would have occurred by the act of me and the results of it, the man said, now standing in front of Lee. Lee seemed to flinch a little at that before standing up with his head still looking at the floor. Yes. I know this guy sensei. I am sorry for my failure, Lee said to the now recognized guy. They stood there for a moment before Lee felt a heavy hand on his shoulder. Looking up in some surprise, he saw Guy looking down at him with a smile. I suppose it's all right, Lee, he said with a large smile, a small sparkle appearing when he did so. By now, Lee was crying youthful tears of happiness, with large streams of tears going down his face. Gee Guy-sensei, he said in a strained voice, the tears falling faster. Oh Lee, Guy said, a pair of tears going down his own face. It was then that Team 7 had to watch with horror and curiosity, as the two spandex-wearing men jumped into a tearful embrace, with a rocky cliff sunset background appearing out of nowhere and a large splash of water appearing behind them. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Naruto and Sakura were gagging in the background, while Sai simply watched the exchange. In Naruto's mind, GLaDOS' chassis was shivering as she tried to get the horrifying image out of her memory core. Oh dear lord, I'm going to have to run so many virus scans, then erase the system, then reboot, then reinstall all the recorded data from a backup file. She muttered slowly to herself, trying to gain control of her chassis shivering. Back in the real world, Guy and Lee had stopped their embrace, ending the horrifying image. Guy wiped the tears away from his face, smiling down at Lee. All right Lee. Now, what say we get back on track? He quickly returned to a strange pose again as he looked at Lee. Now, you did try to use a forbidden technique, so you're going to run the academy track 20 times as punishment? Lee got a determined and excited look on his face as he faced his sensei. "No, Guy sensei. I can do 30, or even 40, he said in a determined voice. Guy gave off another smile, giving a thumbs up to Lee. "You're right, Lee. But that's not enough, you can do at least 10 more. Lee's eyes went wide before he raised his fists in youthful righteousness. "Yes, Guy sensei. I'll go do it right away," and it was with that Lee quickly ran out of the building, heading toward the academy's running track. While this happened, Naruto and Sakura had gotten out of their horror funk somewhat. "Man, does that usually happen around here?" Naruto asked quietly, still trying to get the image out of his head. "I hope not, that was terrible to watch," Sakura whispered back, shivering slightly. "That was an interesting experience. I wonder if I could get a suit like that to experiment with," Sai said, his face back to its normal, non-emotional expression. At this, Naruto and Sakura turned with shocked expressions to Sai. "Are you insane?" they both yelled, temporarily forgetting that the spandex Jonin was in the room. So the result was Guy finally taking notice of them, looking at them in curiosity. "Excuse me, you youthful genin. Are you here for the exams?" he asked them loudly. Naruto and Sakura froze immediately, turning their heads in a dramatic manner as they looked at Guy with fright. Eventually, it was Naruto who spoke up. Why yeah. We're Team 7. We were going upstairs, but we got distracted," he explained with a very small stutter. Guy stood there for a moment, before giving a smile. "Ah, I understand. Here, follow me, youthful ones. I will take you to the exam room," and without a single word from them, he quickly grabbed them all by the collars and ran at an incredible speed up the stairs and down the hall. As he dragged them down the hallways, Naruto and Sakura were making small screams, but were continually cut off by their collars cutting off their screams. Sai had a slightly surprised expression, and was looking around the speeding hallways with somewhat frantic eyes. It was when they passed through a large crowd of genin by a door that something collided with Sai's head, knocking him unconscious. It was mere seconds later that Guy suddenly stopped, making them all lurch forward in his grasp before he dropped them. They all hit the ground with a loud thud, both Naruto and Sakura barely breathing. "Here we are, youthful shinobi. The exam room is right behind this door," he said in a heroic tone, turning his head down to look at them. He then raised an eyebrow when he saw them, wondering why they were so tired looking. "Are you all right? Your youthful spirits seem to have run out." Naruto and Sakura struggled to get up while breathing heavily, while Sai was still unconscious. Before he say anything though, a door a few feet away from them opened, revealing their scarecrow sensei. "Yo. Good to see you guys made it," Kakashi started to say, but trailed off as he saw the heavily breathing Naruto and Sakura and the unconscious Sai. He was wondering what they had been up to, but then he saw Guy. He instantly sweat dropped, closing his book and putting it back into his pocket. "Oh, hello Guy. I'm guessing you brought my student over here for me?" he asked, his voice showing he wasn't surprised that Guy was there. His response was Guy giving off one of his winking grins and a thumbs up. "Why yes I did, Kakashi," he said dramatically, crossing his arms over his heart and grinning. "Your youthful students were lost, so I gladly lead them here, my eternal rival." When they heard this, Naruto and Sakura snapped their heads up, with audible snapping noises being heard. "What?" they screamed, the shock visible on their faces. That shock soon changed to pain however, since they then moved their hands to their necks. "Ooh, that hurt," Naruto moaned out, holding his neck with some care. Sakura did the same, a dark cloud hovering over her head. Ignoring their pain or simply ignorant to it, he turned to them and gave a laugh. "Ha ha ha. Yes indeed. Me and Kakashi are official eternal rivals for all eternity," he said. Kakashi gave a tired and apologetic look to the both of them before tapping Guy on the shoulder. "Yes, we are Guy. Now what about your students? Don't you need to admit them?" Guy's eyes went wide before raising his fist in realization. "Yosh. I remember that. Thank you Kakashi, now I must go immediately. For the power of youth." With that, Guy bolted down the hall, a trail of dust following him. After it settled, Kakashi gave a sigh before turning to his students. "Sorry about that. Guy can be a little enthusiastic. Anyway, before I was interrupted, it's good to see you all made it," he said. A low groan caught their attention, and they looked down to see a previously unconscious Sai who was waking up. What happened?" Sai groaned out, slowly standing up. "Oh. Well, my friend Guy brought you three down here a few minutes ago for the exams. You were unconscious when you got here, so I don't really know what happened," Kakashi said, walking over and helping him off the ground. Seeing he was still wobbly, he carefully leaned him against the wall while making sure he would stand up. Seeing that he was good to go, he nodded before talking to the three of them. Now, it's good you all showed up, mainly because if all of you hadn't shown up, you would have failed immediately. He ignored their shocked, impassive face and continued. So you passed this mini-test before the exam. However, before you all go in, I have to warn you. This test is on a whole other level. People have died in previous tests, and people will probably die in this one. Are you sure you're ready to take it? The three genin looked at each other, before nodding and looking back at Kakashi. Yeah. We're ready. Naruto said confidently, still holding his neck slightly. Kakashi simply stared at them all, and it was a few moments later he gave them an eye smile. That's good to hear. Good luck to you all. Immediately after he said this, he shunshined out of the room, a very small wisp of smoke remaining from where he stood. They stood there for a few moments, but before anyone could say anything, Naruto heard another groan. He looked in Sai's direction, but saw that he looked all right. After a second of thinking, he realized where the groan was coming from. GLaDOS? He asked mentally, worried for the computer who had been helping him. For now, yes I am. I ran a virus check over the data I collected and discovered it's all been corrupted by that thing. She told him, annoyance in her voice. Luckily that monstrosity is gone, so we won't be seeing it again. Thankfully. Naruto gave a shrug at that. Yeah, I guess that's good, he thought to her, half mumbling his sentence. You'll do fine. Honestly, I don't understand why you humans worry so much. Get mad. Get in there and show them what science can do. He stood there for a minute, before a grin slowly crept onto his face. Yeah, you're right. We're gonna kick their asses. Believe it, she gave him a mind nod before fixing her chassis. Good. Now don't talk to me for a few minutes. I have to start re-recording the testing information. In the outside world, after a few seconds of standing there, Naruto looked at his teammates, him grinning wide. You guys ready? Looking at each other, Sakura gave a small nod while Sai gave one of his smiles. Seeing these were all the initiative Naruto needed to walk up to the door and pushed it open, revealing a room full of shinobi and kunoichi. As soon as it opened, all attention in the room was now on them. The three stood there for a moment, and were slightly happy to see the stairs as quickly avert away from them. Things weren't that easy then though, because as they began to step forward, a purple and blonde blur tackled Sai. Sasuke-kun. The tackling blur said, finally stopping its shaking to reveal Ino Yamanaka, a classmate of Naruto and Sakura. It's great to see you finally decided to come to me instead of forehead over there. Sakura twitched at the name for her, while Sai simply blinked at the girl clinging onto him. Sasuke. I am not the Uchiha. I am Sai. Sai said simply looking at her with an expressionless face. Hearing this, she finally lifted her head to look at his face. She stared at it with a blank face for a moment, and continued to stare until her eyebrows rose and she jumped away from Sai. What? You're not him. Where's Sasuke-kun? She asked, more like demanded. Sai, some couldn't tell the difference. Ah. Well, the Uchiha became injured on his last mission with this team. He needs time to recover, and so was substituted by me until a time where he completely recovers. He said to her, the smile still on his face. Now this got a surprised look from Naruto and Sakura, because it was a lie. Luckily, Ino didn't see through it, and nodded reluctantly. Ino, stop annoying them. Troublesome woman. A voice said lazily, with some munching in the background of it. The small group of genin turned their heads to see two more Konoha genin, one with black pineapple hair, and the other with brown hair and a big-boned complexion. These two were Shikimaru Nara and Choji Akamichi, Ino's teammates. A tick mark appeared on her head when he said the last part, cracking her knuckles in a threatening way. Luckily, before she could beat him down, another voice came up. Hey. Check it out. The Rookie 9 are back together. Turning to this voice, they saw a new group come in through the doors. It was a small group of 3 as well, which included a guy with a coat, a guy with a dog on his head, and a girl with lavender eyes. These people were Shino Aburame, Kiba Inazaka, and Hinata Hyuga respectively. The second Hinata saw Naruto. Her face turned slightly red as she looked away. Shino, however, saw Sai and started to look at him. Who are you, and where is the Uchiha? He said in a slightly monotone voice. It was then that the rest of the Rookie 9 noticed this. Yeah. Where is Duckhead? He couldn't take the thought of losing to us? Kiba said in a mocking tone, giving a grin. Sai simply gave him a blank look, staring at him in a creepy way. No actually. He was injured on the last mission, and won't be joining us. I am Sai, his replacement, he said, continuing his awkward stare. Kiba's grin slowly disappeared, being replaced with a creeped-out look. You know, you should all be quieter. You'll be annoying everyone with your talk, and that's pretty bad in these exams if you want to get far. They all were surprised at the sudden voice, and turned to see who was talking. It was a guy who had gray-blue hair, with round glasses and a leaf headband on his head. He was dressed in purple clothes, and looked to be around his early 20s. Who are you? Choji asked before putting a bacon-flavored chip in his mouth. Well, I guess I should introduce myself. My name's Kabuto. I'm pretty much an expert at these exams. How do we know that? You could be lying to us, Shikamaru said in a serious tone, but most of it was taken by the laziness in his voice. When he heard that, Kabuto put a hand behind his head and laughed slightly. I can understand that. Truthfully, it's because I've taken these exams over 7 times. Guess I'm not that good. He then laughed awkwardly again. This got looks from some of the group, Ino and Kiba the most obvious out of them. Wow dude. You must really suck, Kiba said bluntly, with Ino giving Kabuto a look that practically said, why are you even here then? Naruto seemed ready to say something, but was interrupted before he could speak. Hold on, 7 times? That doesn't sound right. Huh? What do you mean? And I thought you were recopying the testing stuff. I paused it. Now he said 7 times, doesn't that sound suspicious to you at all? Suspicious? I don't know, oh for the love of, look. Your ancestors thought things through. You're being trained to as well. Actually you're being trained to think altogether, but we'll ignore that for now. Now as I just said, think. What are the chances of passing the exams in your own village? In this village, it would be good. Yes, it would be good. Why? Why in your own village? It would be to pass as many of our shinobi as possible? Correct. So even if he failed once, he'd get better. But failing 7 times is an extreme. I've only known one idiot to fail that horribly, and he's been gone for a long time. The chances of him actually being that horrible are slim. He's hiding something. Hiding something. Okay. What should I do? You've done all right so far, so think about it. All right. So if he's hiding something, I should try to find out what it is. That sounds good. Try and get some information out of him. Be discreet though, you don't want to give yourself away. A few seconds later outside his mind, Naruto's eyes unfazed. Luckily, no one noticed because they were still looking at Kabuto. You're really an expert? Could you give us some hints? He asked Kabuto, excitedly. Kabuto shrugged before he reached into one of his pouches. Sure, why not? I guess I can give something to you, since you're all new. It was after this that he pulled his hand out of the pouch, and revealed that he'd taken a deck of orange cards from it. Cards? What are those gonna do? Kiba asked bluntly. Kabuto laughed lightly before he picked up a few. These aren't just any cards. These are ninja info cards. They have special information that will only show themselves when I pump my chakra into it. I have information on everyone here, so you're welcome to ask about anyone. Anyone? Naruto said to himself quietly. After a second, he looked back to Kabuto. Okay, I have 3. First, Durok Lee and Gaara of the desert. You already know their names? That's no fun. Kabuto pouted, before putting one of the cards down and pumping his chakra into it. After a moment, the card gained color, soon revealing a picture of Lee and a chart on it. Okay, Rock Lee. Known as the handsome devil of the leaf, he is a genin of Konoha. He is a student of Might Guy and part of Team Guy, consisting of him, Guy, and his teammates Neji, Hyuga and Tenten. His genjutsu and ninjutsu are barely on his stats, but his taijutsu levels go off the chart. The information disappeared when he picked it up, putting down another card and doing the same procedure to it, revealing a monotone picture of Gaara and his stats. Gaara of the desert. He's a shinobi of the hidden sand village, under Team Baki with him, his sensei Baki and his siblings Tamari and Kankuro. Skill level unknown. And, whoa. According to this, he's only been on A and B rank missions, and he always comes back without a scratch on him. The same then happened, with the information disappearing. He put the card away, taking out the last one and looking at Naruto. Alright, so who's the last guy you want information on? I'd like it on me, Naruto Uzumaki. This got questioning and confused looks from the genin, with Sai looking at him impassively. I don't know why you want to check your own stats, but alright. He pushed the chakra into the card, but as the information began to appear, Naruto covered it with his hand. You mind if I look at it alone? Don't want to give away too much about myself. Kabuto gave a shrug, before taking his hand off of it. Sure. Go right ahead. Giving a nod of thanks, he picked up the card. He read over it slowly, and his expression started to turn into shock. After a few more seconds, he took the card in both hands and ripped it in half. Damn. My stats freaking suck. How does that work when I'm gonna be Hokage? He said in small anger, his fists gripped tightly. At that, Kiba simply laughed at him. Ha ha ha. No surprise there. You were dead last in our class. He simply kept laughing, while some of the others simply face-palmed at Naruto's reaction. However, this was not truly the reaction he had. GLaDOS, did you see that? Yes I did, and my suspicions are correct about him, she told him, looking at the screen that had a picture of the card's stats on it. Naruto Uzumaki. Ninjutsu Chunin level, Genjutsu Academy level, Taijutsu Genin level, Chakra level High Junin. Powerful bloodline acknowledged, true characteristics unknown. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, extending chakra level further. 2A rank missions, 26D rank missions. Knows S rank jutsu. Him knowing of the Kyuubi is a problem itself, but knowing about the portal enhancement brings concern since the Hokage said it would stay secret. There is also the fact that no one else knows about the shadow clone jutsu except for the Hokage and your team. He has restricted information he should not have. Tell the Hokage and the Pale One as soon as possible. Do not trust him. He gave a mental nod before laughing awkwardly at Kabuto. He. Sorry about your card, guess I got a little carried away. It's no problem. Besides, I got something else to show you guys. He pulled out one last card before putting it on the floor and doing the same to it. The difference this time was that instead of a person, it showed a map of the Shinobi Nation, highlighting each one and giving a number. These exams are held in a different village every time, so there's usually a large amount of teams from each village attending. We even have some new villages sending in teams, like the Hidden Sound Village, Otogakure. They're pretty weak, but they might prove a challenge in the exams, who knows. Wow. Are there really that many here? That's a lot of people to fight. What do you think, Naruto? Sakura said, turning to her teammate. She was a little surprised then to see him with his head down, his body shaking. Naruto? It seems some others noticed it since Shikamaru and Sai looked at him in curiosity, while Kabuto gave Naruto a smile. Hey, no need to get scared. Most of the people get weeded out in the first part of the exam. So you have no need to worry. He was cut off however, since Naruto suddenly looked up at the rest of the people in the room with a determined expression on his face. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm gonna kick the crap out of all of you. He shouted, getting the whole room's attention. Most of them were now looking at the rookie nine with hate and annoyance on their faces. The only exception was a certain redhead with his siblings across the room, looking at Naruto with interest. Naruto Uzumaki, you will be interesting to fight in these exams, to fulfill my existence. A creepy grin spread on his face, making his siblings look at him with fear. Meanwhile, with the rookies, they were looking at Naruto in their own anger and horror, while Sai and Kabuto were surprisingly calm. Unless you do something like that. He finished lamely, a sweat drop visible on his head. Great, now everyone's gonna be after us, Naruto. And I was hoping this wouldn't take any effort. Troublesome blonde. Shikamaru mumbled, a tick mark obvious on his head. Wham! Naruto hit the floor, with Sakura having her fist outstretched. As quickly as she punched him, she was shaking him violently. Naruto. Why did you do that? Now they're gonna get us first. She yelled at him, punching him to the ground again. Small cracks appeared on the ground on impact, and some of the foreign shinobi actually hissed in pain sympathy. You little idiot. Why did you even think about doing that? She berated him as he struggled off the ground. You said not to trust him, so I didn't. Okay, I'll admit I did say that. But most of it was good advice. While there is not trusting him, there is also common sense. That little stunt just increased the chances of your team being hunted by about 78.91%. And that is with some generous rounding. So good luck. Crap. Yes. Crap, indeed. So here's some new advice. Don't be obvious in it. Gain some fake trust with him, but also make sure he doesn't mislead you or your friends. Example, warn him right now of those 3 from Otto about to attack him. Alright. Wait, what? No time, do it now. Quickly cancelling the link to GLaDOS, he turned around and sure enough, a mummy-wrapped genin with a sound headband was heading for Kabuto. Kabuto, look out! Kabuto, who heard this, quickly turned around and barely avoided a punch to the head. He gave a quick thankful nod to Naruto before looking at the sound nin. You missed. The mummy raised an eyebrow before raising his other hand to a weird gauntlet on the arm he threw the punch with. Did I? And with that, He flicked the gauntlet with his free hand. A small ding came from it, a barely visible sound wave coming from it. Kabuto looked fine, but it was after a few moments that he clutched his bleeding ears with a cry before he vomited on the floor as well. No matter what the distance, if sound can reach a specific frequency in the body, it will result in bodily harm. You think the hidden sound village is weak? Get ready to be proven wrong, weakling. Before the sound nin could continue his assault, however, he was interrupted by a large explosion of smoke from the front of the room. All of you maggots get in your seats now, or I'll fail all of your sorry asses. A deep voice bellowed from the smoke. The effect was immediate, as all the shinobi and kunoichi in the room started for their seats. After only a few seconds, all in the room were in the seats, waiting as the smoke disappeared. So most of them were slightly intimidated when a large group of Chunin and Jonin at the front of the room. In front of them was a tall man in a black trench coat, with a large scar and black headband on his head. He gave them all a glare before addressing the mummy nin. First things first, no fighting in this section of the exam, or I'll fail you immediately. Got it, maggot? The mummy shifted in his seat before giving the man an apologetic nod. I'm sorry. I was simply too excited for these exams. It will not happen again. The man gave him a glare, before returning his attention to the rest of the room. Now, I am Ibiki Morino, and I will be your proctor for the first portion of the Chunin exams. So you're going to listen to everything I say, and do it, or you'll fail. Got me? He emphasized the point with another glare and some killing intent. Most of them nodded shakily, while others simply couldn't move. The only ones not affected were Sai, Gaara and Naruto, who each had their own expressions of blandness, creepiness or confusion. The first portion of the exams will be a written test with 9 questions, and will last 45 minutes. The 10th and final question will be revealed once the 45 minutes are up. Now I bet you all think this sounds easy enough. Well, you're wrong. The ending shout made most of the genin in the room jump in their seats. There are a couple rules that you must follow, and these are no cheating, and no asking questions. Not following these will result in an immediate failure. Getting caught cheating will result in an immediate failure. Any questions? There were about 4 or 5 who raised their hands, but that stopped when Ibiki immediately threw a multitude of kunai, each one hitting their desks. What the hell did I just say? All 5 of you teams fail. Get the hell out now. They didn't need to be told twice, as all 25 immediately jumped out OFD their desks and bolted out the door. Oh, did I forget to mention? If one of your teammates fails, your whole team fails. Many of the genin were quivering with some fear now, with Sakura looking at Naruto worriedly. Oh no, if that's the case, then Naruto's gonna need all the help he can get. The same, however, was different for a specific AI, who was looking around the room through her monitor in Naruto's head. So no cheating and no questions, then how would they? I understand now, she muttered, Naruto not hearing her. Now, on my mark, all of you will start the test, and will stop when I say so at the 45-minute marker. Got it? Ibiki asked them sternly. All of them nodded their heads, aware of the question rule now. He looked them over before stepping back to the desk. Good. The written portion of the Chunin exams begin, now. With that, all the genin picked up their pencils and began without question. Some of them started to write, while many of the genin simply stared at the exam papers. One of them being Naruto, who was starting to sweat. If person A and person B are sitting on a branch 12 feet above the ground, and target C is sitting in the clearing 27 feet from the branch, how long will it take to reach the target in a 7.35 second time frame? And what fighting maneuver will be enacted when targets D and E come out of the tree line as part of an ambush? What? How am I supposed to answer these? He said frantically in his mind, slowly starting to freak out. Because you're not supposed to. He temporarily stopped worrying, thinking over her comment. What? What do you mean? It's simple. These questions are too advanced for any normal genin to answer. Unless you count some people, like your pink-haired friend on your left. Naruto moved his eyes over to a few tables, and true to her word, Sakura was busily writing away, no fear or worry on her face. Wow, Sakura-chan is doing pretty good, but if they're too difficult, why give them to us? He slowly said to her, realization slowly creeping onto his face. Exactly. These questions are impossible to answer except for a select few. So how are people getting their tests done? Look around, discreetly. And so he did, seeing for a fact what she meant. A girl with buns in her hair was discreetly moving her fingers, using a mirror on the ceiling to see other people's papers. The kid Lee from before was looking at the mirror quickly so as not to be noticed before quickly looking down and writing down answers. Sai had lightly put one of his hands down, and Naruto was surprised to see a small mouse made of what appeared to be ink form in his hand and jump on the floor, running to another desk. Even Kiba was having his puppy Akamaru look at other people's papers before growling the answers to him lightly. The questions are impossible, and the instructor said no cheating or questions. So what are they doing? Cheating. They're purposefully breaking the rules to get answers. This test is about information gathering. You have to cheat to pass. That makes sense. But how am I gonna cheat? The only thing I have is Shadow Clone, and they're gonna notice that. You're kidding, right? Oh yeah. Sorry, he, forgot for a second. Obviously, now let me see that question again. Wiping some sweat off his brow, he looked down at the exam, it's showing up on her monitor. Alright, it's irrelevant. A shinobi wouldn't be focusing on how long it took, simply that the target gets taken down. And if they have enough time to recover and block it, or simply anticipate the ambush, then they may use whatever they have in their personal arsenal. There is no specific maneuver to use since it varies from shinobi to shinobi. Alright, got it, next question. Putting down her pencil, Sakura flipped her paper to hide her answers and looked up at a Chunin or Jonin instructor standing a few feet from her desk. Looking at her directly, he gave her a nod of acknowledgement before returning his attention to the rest of the room. Taking this as a good thing, Sakura turned her head to look at the clock at the front of the room. 17 minutes had passed, and so seeing this, gave a small smile before looking around the room. She caught sight of Sai, who was writing his last question before he flipped the paper and looked at her, giving a usual fake smile. She twitched slightly before she tried looking for Naruto. Poor Naruto, I hope he's doing alright. After a few seconds, she spotted the orange jumpsuit wearing teammate a few seats away. When she saw him however, she felt herself go wide-eyed. He wasn't freaking out. He was actually answering the questions, and he was going pretty fast. After a few minutes, he stopped writing, placing the pencil down and flipping the paper. She saw him look up at the clock and sigh with relief. She too turned to the clock, and saw that 3 minutes had passed. What? How did he do that so fast? With Naruto, he took a sigh of relief knowing that he was finally done. He looked up at the clock again and saw that there was 25 minutes until the 10th question was given. Thanks for the help, GLaDOS. But what now? There's a ton of time left until the last question. I was thinking over that. The boy from before, Kabuto, like I said, he is not what he appears to be. Write a warning on the back of the paper, and sign it to the Hokage. He needs to be told. Okay, but what if someone reads it? I have it covered. I'll have you write something to be told to him, then I'll tell you the message to write. Shrugging mentally, he picked up the pencil and was ready to write again, but was interrupted by a kunai suddenly hitting the desk to the left of him. Ah! Naruto jumped slightly, turning his head quickly to where the kunai landed. It had landed on the desk of a scared-looking genin that had a headband with grass blades on it. You, next to the colorblind kid. You cheated. You and your team fail. Just as quickly as Ibiki said it, 3 other instructors jumped from the sides of the room, grabbed the kid and 2 other genin, and pretty much threw them out the doors. Ibiki was looking closely at them all now, practically glaring. Don't shake. He's doing this on purpose. He's using scare tactics to lower your morale. Stay relaxed and focused on the message. Naruto nodded slightly before letting her tell him the message. As he wrote it, those in the room started to leave, getting kicked out of the room. What felt like an eternity later, he put the pencil back down, letting out a sigh. Alright, so now what? Now we wait, and so they did wait, hearing the sounds of the instructor kick people out. It was many minutes later that they heard the instructor finally yell, "Time's up. Pencils down." He glared at all of them, slowly pacing the front of the room. Alright, you little maggots. It is time for the 10th question. You have 2 choices with it, take it or don't take it. If you don't take it, you fail. If you take it, and you get the question wrong, a smile appeared on his face. You'll be banned from the Chunin Exams for life. The effect was immediate, as the room went into panic and anger. What? Never take it again. That's crap. That's ridiculous, I'd rather fail. Yeah, me too. Multiple genin stood up, leaving the room without a second thought. Ignoring them, Ibiki looked at the rest of the genin. You all have the choice. Raise your hand if you feel you can't take the question or don't want to. The room was quiet, until genin around the room slowly lifted their hands. Alright, this will be easy enough, you just need to. What are you doing? She said this with surprise, because Naruto had slowly begun to raise his hand. It was also at this time that Sakura was looking at Naruto worriedly, while Sai was curiously watching him. Poor Naruto, maybe he couldn't take the exam, is it worth it to stay if he's not ready? She thought. It was then, As she slowly raised her hand, they were all interrupted. Bam! They all turned to the noise and saw that Naruto had slammed his hand down on the desk, a determined look on his face. You think I'm just gonna give up now? No way, I've made it this far, and even if I fail, I'll try even harder to become Hokage. So bring on your stupid 10th question. I'm ready for it. He kept his look on Ibiki, who was looking at him with that same evil glare. So it was during this he didn't notice many of the people's hands go down, including Sakura's. After the last couple had left, he looked over them evilly. So, this is it? You're all gonna take the question? There was a collected nod, with many of the genin glaring back determinedly. Seeing this, he stood there for a second before talking again. Alright then, your 10th and final question is, he gave a smile before saying, you all pass. All of them were silent, a dead silence hanging around the room. It stayed this way for a minute until finally. What? Yes, you heard me right. All of you that stayed in this room passed the first round of the Chunin exams. But what about the 10th question? The four-pig-tailed sister of Gaara asked. There was no 10th question. It was simply to see if you were determined enough to continue on. The test itself doesn't even matter. This test's purpose was information gathering, and to see if you could get it without being caught. This is how information gathering will be for you in the future as shinobi, and you all need to learn that information is important to have a protect. He said, slowly untying his headband bandana. If you get caught or captured, the enemy will do anything in their power to get that information. Do not let them. With that, he dropped the headband from his head, and the genin gave looks of horrors. Ibiki's head was covered in numerous scars, even showing things like stitches, burn marks and a shallow hole or two. After showing them for a minute, he slowly tied it back on his head, covering the injuries. They will do anything. Whether it be in a mission or a time of war, having this information and protecting it is the utmost importance. Protect is with your lives. He couldn't continue however, since the window suddenly burst into shards of glass, a large bundle of something being thrown into the room. It quickly unrolled and stuck to the floor and ceiling with kunai, revealing it to be a large post with the colorful words, the second proctor, the sexy Anko Midarashi. It was then that a figure appeared in front of the poster, and most of the men in the room were blown back from the nosebleeds. It was revealed that the figure was a woman with purple hair in a spiked bun who was wearing a tan trench coat, skirt and standard shinobi sandals. That seemed about it too, since underneath the trench coat was only mesh, revealing certain upper parts to the room. Listen up you little ingrates. My name's Anko Midarashi, and I'm the second proctor for the Chunin exams. Their attention was brought back from her features to her face, revealing a wild grin on her face. But that was quickly vanished when Ibiki peered from behind her announcement sheet and glared at her, obviously annoyed. You're early again, Anko. I wasn't done with them yet, he growled out. Anko seemed to ignore him however, since she waved him off. Yeah, whatever Ibiki. Now let's see, she looked over the group of genin, doing something they didn't recognize. That ended swiftly, since she looked at Ibiki and glared. 78 genin. You passed 26 teams Ibiki? You really are getting slow aren't you? Ibiki's response was grumble, so she shrugged it off. Looking back at the genin, she grinned evilly. Alright rookies, you might have passed the first half, but by the time you're done with my test, you'll all be cut down by less than half. Now, meet me at the training ground * closest to here in 10 minutes, or you all fail. Now move your asses. With that, she promptly flashed the room before jumping out the window again. *****, those who had barely woken up from the first flash were thrown back again, most of them pale from the blood loss. Ibiki simply sighed before motioning for the other instructors to pick up the unconscious ones and take them there as he collected the tests. Those who hadn't lost consciousness began to walk out the doors, with three most noticeable being Sai, Naruto and Sakura. As they walked down the stairs, Naruto quickly pulled Sai to the side, getting his attention. Oh. Hello junkie trash. Good to see you passed. Naruto twitched, but quickly shook it off to get back on track. Look Sai, we don't have time for this. That Kabuto guy knew about stuff he shouldn't have, like the furball, my shadow clone and my bloodline. Can you send a message to Gigi and get him to watch him? The fake smile on Sai's face disappeared, replaced with a serious face Naruto didn't expect. Of course. Give me one moment. It was then he quickly took out a brush and a scroll, and swiftly drew a picture of a hummingbird with some kanji next to it. He put the brush away, and made a tiger seal. Instantly, the hummingbird actually came off the page, it hovering in front of Sai. Get the message I wrote to the Hokage and Danzo-sama. They must know immediately. The hummingbird seemed to nod before it darted past the two and quickly flew off. As soon as it did, Sai's expression returned to his usual one. Now, let us head off. We cannot be late for the second exam portion, you fat, walking food incinerator. With that, he quickly walked away from Naruto and out of the academy. Naruto's twitching returned tenfold, him muttering angrily as he followed Sai grudgingly. Back in the exam room, Ibiki was collecting the exam papers as janitors avoided him and cleaned up the pervy genin blood. He soon reached Naruto's desk, and as he picked it up, he noticed what appeared to be scribbles on the back. Hey instructor dude, there was this guy Kabuto in the exam earlier that knew some stuff he shouldn't have, and it was kinda suspicious. Got a message for Hokage-sama, so can you get it to him? Simply tell him the message is from her, and that he'll be able to decode it. He'll know what it means. Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage, P.S. Your exam sucked. Ibiki let out a slight chuckle, before looking at the big scribble beneath the small letter. He was slightly surprised to see that the scribble was not a scribble, but a series of what appeared to be old kanji. Suspicious, but not taking it lightly, he quickly put Naruto's test in a coat pocket. Then putting the tests on the desk at the front of the room, he quickly left out of the broken window, heading to the Hokage Tower. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.